Welcome to Pre-Batch. Today we're speaking with François Monti. François is the author of 5 books, as well as being a writer for basically every major spirit publication there is on the planet. Today we speak about the history and culture of vermouth, the value of technical bartending, as well as Cuban cocktail culture. François has a unique perspective on many things, and we agreed and disagreed on many things. Today was a really energetic and enlightening episode.
Drinks of the day are Vermouth Cassis, a 50-50 martini, and a Ron Collins.
François Monti, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming, man. So you call yourself a writer who drinks, is that right?
Yeah.
How did you get to that point, becoming a writer who drinks?
Well, or drinker who writes, you know?
Or a drinker who writes?
Because the issue
is it 50-50?
Well, I mean, the issue is I used to work or do stuff in literature, and there's so many writers who turn into alcoholic. Mm-hmm. So I prefer to start from the other way around, you know, to get into drinks and then do the writing. Now, I mean, yeah, I'm not a drinks writer. It's just the easy way, you know, a drinks writer. No, I'm a drinker who writes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Would you say writer who drinks or drinker who writes?
Drinker writes.
Drinker who writes, okay.
Yeah.
Well, did you write stuff before you were writing about drinks?
Yeah.
You were always an author of some kind?
Well, actually, I was talking about this the other day. I knew from when I was 6 that I wanted to write.
Yeah.
6 years old, and I just stuck there, and it is all my life was about the writing, and you know, at some point I fell into the drink.
Well, what's the magnet that draws you towards drink then?
I don't know. It's difficult to say. I mean, I'm asked the question quite often, and I think on one side there's the family thing where my parents are not involved in hospitality or in drinks or food or whatever, but there's always been that big food culture at home. Like my mom cooks a lot. It's coming, you know, from her mom and from her grandmother. And then, wine has always been important in the family. Although we're Belgian, we have a very French culture in that sense. And my father was always into like having a sip of whiskey or of cognac. So, you know, I had all this culture around me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, coming from Belgium, I was into beers. And over the years, accidentally, I discovered cocktails. And, you know, it was 2008, 2009. So that's right when the boom in the US, you know, around classic cocktails, was finally creeping its way into Europe. And I mean, I'm very obsessive, as a lot of us in this industry are. And you know, when I'm interested in something, I go deep, and you know, I like this whole cocktail thing, and I started getting into it more and more. And the thing is, I can't understand anything if I don't write about it. I have to, writing is the way I have of understanding things.
To organize your thoughts,
yes.
Kind of. Yeah, I understand that.
So, you know, if you're going to be writing, what the fuck are you going to do with the writing? And, you know, it was 2008 was like the blog years. And so I launched a blog. It was I would say actually the second blog in French. It was in French back in the day, about cocktails, and basically there was no one writing about cocktails. Obviously, in the UK, you had Simon Difford, and you know there were a few people. There was very few of us, and you know, very quickly people asked me if I could write for them, because a lot of the people writing about cocktails back in the day were actually bartenders.
Yeah.
And bartenders are good at bartending, not necessarily good at writing.
Yeah.
And so they I don't know, they looked at me like, oh, this guy actually knows how to write. And he actually is very interested in cocktails. So, you know, and, you know, I found out that actually you could make money, not great money, but you can make some money writing about cocktails. And, you know, from then on.
So was it a side gig for a while, and then you
it was
decided
a side gig,
let's we can make some money out of this, and I can do it full time.
Yeah. Just I started with the blog in 2010. first got paid in 2012 and went full time 2016.
Okay. So it was a side gig for a little while there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you locked it in. Yeah. That's interesting. I suppose like it's quite nice to I mean, cocktails is a very tangible and almost clinical thing to write about, but then there's the culture side of it as well, which is like you can explore and have different opinions on. It's very subjective, you know, like how the culture works, and it's very different in Spain and Northern Europe, Southern Europe. The UK is very different to everywhere else in the world as its approach to drinking and the culture around it. So I guess there's a lot to write about there, right?
Well, I mean, 18 years ago, it was, I would say, easier than now, because 18 years ago, people were really interested in, remember the main, that old recipe from Charles Baker, and like, you know, where does it come from? What are the ingredients? You know, what are the perfect specs? Let's talk about who was Charles Baker. There was all this cultural thing, and right now, a lot of that is gone. It's not so much of interest, and you know, if you want to write about cocktails, you need to write about people and how they feel, and I'm not really a people's person, so it was for me it was easier when people were actually interested in history. And
you prefer the objective stuff than the opinion pieces.
And if it's going to be subjective, I prefer to talk about what's the best whiskey for this, or what are the best proportions, and should we do 2-to-1 sugar syrup, whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I was just kind of thinking about this recently. That was kind of my conclusion, was that's how it's gone. I remember not even 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, but yeah, definitely 10 years ago, there was a lot more interest in history. We had the twirly mustache bartender, we had people looking in old vintage cocktail books to try and find old classics. And I feel that's very much not died off completely, but I feel that kind of bartender is gone, and that interest in history and reviving old classics is not like it was 10 years ago. Now, like you say, it's more, I don't know what it is now. Like, I guess it's a lot more tech now. Definitely in the bartending industry, it's interest in tech. I don't know if they're reading in the same way. I don't know if it's revered as much as it was to know your history. I know 10 years ago, for example, if a bartender was worth his salt kind of thing, they knew their history. Like, they knew, like, this drink came from here, and they would tell people at the bar, like, this was first created in 1936 and blah 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 blah. And now I feel like that's not so much there anymore.
No, it's gone. People don't care, but it's fine. It's okay. The only thing, I mean, you always go to the extremes, right? I mean, again, as I was saying, I'm very obsessive, and a lot of people in the industry were very obsessive. So you got into this, and you went very far into this, and then of course there's going to be a backlash and a new equilibrium at some point. What I think is more interesting to look at is all right, maybe we went too far, but what have we lost by not being interested in this anymore? And so it's less about books, more about videos or podcast. It's less about research into the perfect specs for this drink, and it's more into me and creativity and tech. And for me, I mean, maybe it's too early in the pod to be already having whole man syndrome, but I think we've lost a lot of things. In terms of making classics, right? I mean, you don't need to know who created the aviation and whether the aviation is a good drink or not, but you need to be able to make a good version of it, right? And I think the issue with the techification of cocktail is, how can I say it? Like, the cocktail world is so trend driven right now. That I'm always afraid at one point consumers will say, there's a new trend coming up. Like, there is this panic within the drinks industry right now where people are saying, people are not drinking anymore, which is not true. But like everyone, like, it's coffee. Like, the new thing is coffee. And
this too shall pass.
This too shall pass, of course. But if we're allowing cocktails to being trend driven, And obviously, the people who are going to cocktail bars are going to be trend hunters who are going to go to the next trend. And I think maybe what we've lost is that connection to the classic, which is what people want to drink. And we need to make sure that, you know, everyone is coming through the ranks know how to make. I mean, everyone is saying that, but no one is actually doing it. Like how to make the perfect classic and have that thing where you can walk into any bar making cocktails and have a decent classic. Because at the end of the day, I strongly believe that the consumers are not coming to your bar for the clarified shit. They're coming to your bar for something else. And at one point, you know, you get bored with the spectacular and you just want a nice drink, the same way that you might be going to the wine bar for the funky natty wine. But really,
do you really want to feel terrible the next morning?
I mean, really, the if you're going to go to that bar 3 or 4 times, then you would look for the thing that you can actually smash. Right?
Yeah. Do you have anything where you fermented it and it was like a good process and you finished everything?
Yes, yeah. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No. You are making sense. I think I see it slightly different. I kind of agree in a way. Like I think like there's techie stuff, and I see it as like, you know, bubbles in a market. You know, like you know, you get bubbles, and then, you know, when they're too trendy, and people like when they're not. When people are more interested than the thing is valuable, you know, like people are like, oh, this thing or whatever, like, you know, I use the, you know, not to trash, I always trash them, but you know, the bubbles on top of cocktails with smoking, I always look at
flavor
that.
Blaster thing,
the flavor blaster thing, like not only, I mean, it is literally a bubble, and it's you know, it's both an actual bubble and an analogy of a bubble, you know, like it's something which. Yes, it's visually impressive, but does it actually add any real value, you know, to the experience or the drink? Maybe to the experience slightly, there's some theatre there, but it doesn't actually add anything to the drink, and you're trying to sell it as something. I suppose, like, clarification, for me, like, it's overdone. People might push it too much. They might push it into people who aren't very interested in it, and you should maybe just shut up about it at some points. But it's good, like, you know, it does a good thing. You should just maybe not pull back the curtain so much, you know, like I think rotovaps are great. There's stuff you can do with the rotovap that you definitely couldn't do without it, but
if you can use it.
If you can use it,
because there's a lot of people who have those things that they actually cannot use it. I mean, they don't know how to use it.
Too much brand money. The brand said we'll buy you a rotovap, so they bought one and now they don't know what to do with it. I mean, I know multiple bars that have rotovaps that they don't use because
no, of course they convinced the sucker, which normally is the boss, they wanted to the rotovap, and then they look at it and say, well, actually, I don't know how to use this shit, and then you look at it and say, oh, it's a bit too clean for it. It shouldn't be this clean. Like the bowl shouldn't be this clean. It should be.
And then one glass flask breaks, and you realize it's 500 quid to replace it. So you're like,
fuck, I don't have money anymore.
Maybe we don't do that drink anymore. But I think there's like, I don't know, we go through all these like trends, and I feel the same about trends. Like I almost like start to, and this is definitely like old man shouting at clouds. It's like I almost worry when trends get too trendy. I'm like, guys, don't get too interested in this, because what happens is the generation that comes just after you, and it doesn't need to be a full generation, it could be like they're 2 years behind you. They'll see how into it you got, and it'll make it cringe for them. Like, you know, within 2 years' time, if you get really, really into clarification and everybody does it, it's going to die. And we should just, you know, take it easy and let it be what it is. Good, but not amazing, not a groundbreaker, not the only thing we should be doing. And then just let it like, you know, let it be its thing. Because if you go too far, you'll kill it. You know, it's like a delicate thing that needs to be looked after.
I think the question is, is this a novelty industry, right? Is this a novelty industry where it's the issue with novelty is there's always something new, and I think there's great potential to establish this as something that's here forever. The same way, even when cocktails were shit, people were drinking cocktails in the US, right? Because it was part of the culture. And for me, one of the things that sort of not worries me, but as an observer, I'm, you know, always a bit, it's sort of it's curious to me, where if you look at food, like, we understand there are Michelin-style restaurants, we understand there are restaurants that are not Michelin-style but are, sort of emulating that style of cooking. But really, what people do in their everyday life is going for, in Spain, tortilla and a coffee, and the real discussion they have is, where do I have the best tortilla, right? And I have a feeling in the cocktail world we're all Michelin and no one wants to make the tortilla.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's so little money in Michelin and so much money in tortilla.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, I'm really looking at the tortilla places. And for me, the health of a cocktail scene is the tortilla places.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and I think, if I can jump on your analogy, I would say like the difference between food and a bar is like the tortilla place is not so much about I think the drink can be just as good in the tortilla place as it can in the award-winning place. In fact, quite often I go to some award-winning bars, and the drinks are so far. They're just trying to be really, really technical and use things that don't generally taste that nice in drinks, but they're showing off and they're flexing. Whereas like they won't use a raspberry because like that's easy. It's like everything. A while ago, back in the Marianne Becker days, it used to be like everything has to have mushrooms. Like every drink on the menu was like, it was just flexing to try and get something out of it. But anyway, my point is the difference between a restaurant and a bar is like people are really going for the experience. They want to reduce their inhibitions. They want to connect with someone. They want to maybe even connect with strangers, depending on what kind of bar it is. Have a good time and just kind of leave themselves. They want escapism. They want an experience. So I think like that's I think what we need to remember in the bar industry is that's what the product is. The drink really is just it's a kind of a sideshow, and we pretend that it's the main event, but it's not. It's like the bar itself, and yes, to some level the service, but again, the service is really just there to be invisible. It should be at its best. The service should be invisible, and your experience should be what happens, and you should leave there not really understanding why you had such a good time. As a guest.
Very true. But then, as so many cocktail bars are now about the bartender and the waiters and the service, right?
Yeah.
And for me,
it has its place. But
it has its place. Of course, it has, and a lot of those places. But sometimes it's like, well, do you really want to go this way? I mean, I don't know. For me, bars have always been about repeat customers, right? Like regulars.
Yeah.
How many cocktails bars do you know that don't have regulars?
Yeah. There's plenty. Especially like here in Barcelona, you don't need regulars. You've got enough tourists until you do. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I mean, I live in Mallorca, and like the good cocktail bars there are the ones that are still busy in the winter because there's no tourists there in the winter, and it's like there's only like 2 or 3 that maintain that level of custom in the winter, and they're like and they say that it's the lifesaver. That's how they continue paying their rent throughout that period. So if you can get both, that's always good. Anyway, we went straight into
I'm sorry. I don't know.
No, that's fine. I like it. This is what I live for.
Let's backtrack a little bit then.
Yeah. But one more point on that. Like, so what do you see? Because we are talking about it already. But like, if because like you say, 10 years ago, you could write about history. You could pick up an old book. You could write about classic cocktails. So what's your understanding about what you can write about and what you'll be writing about in 5-10 years for the industry? Or is it just that there's less people reading it? Or
no, people don't. I was asked that last year at FIBAR, which is the main bar show in Spain, and we had a big roundtable with a lot of the veterans from the bar industry in Spain, getting there and talking about what has changed the last 12 years, blah 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 blah. And someone asked me why don't we have a proper magazine, bar magazine in Spain, something like Imbibe in the US or
Is Beber not the one?
Sorry?
Beber?
Beber is a website, right?
I mean, it's not like a published magazine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's great people doing it, but it doesn't have the regularity, and again, that's part of the issue that so we don't have that. They were asking why don't we have that? I said, well, because you don't read. I have 5 books. People don't buy books. People, or they do just to have them there. People don't read. I have a newsletter. People don't read. I mean, I know I have the numbers. People don't read. I don't mind. I don't care. I don't care anymore. For a few reasons. One, because I've always been convinced that it's not how many people read you, it's who read you. Right? Who reads. And as long as you reach the influential people, that's the only thing you want. I've also learned to accept that you don't make money with books. And I have the privilege of having my own business and my own work, which I make money off. And so I have also the luxury of writing what I want to write about. So if I want to do an article like 15 years ago about El Presidente. Actually, I did one of the best read. It's a bit contradictory, but one of the best read article I did for my newsletter was the anatomy of the El Presidente. Right, the history of it, the ingredients, what are the best ingredients to use for this, blah blah blah. So if I want to do that, I can do that. If I want to go on a rant about anything in the industry, I can do that. If I want to talk to a friend and do an interview, I can do that. Because I have that luxury now. But if I take a bit of distance and look at where the media industry in terms of drinks is, it's very frustrating. And of course, you cannot do that because the articles they're going to commission, it's not going to be about... media is not interested in how do you make this amazing tequila, right? I gave up on trying to publish in regular media a few years ago when I was trying to sell an article on a tequila called Fortaleza. Because Guillermo Erickson, who's the owner, has a fascinating story coming from the Sousa family, and the whole dynamic of like almost daddy issue where, I thought my grandfather I was going to inherit the brand from blah blah blah. And it was a fascinating story there. I went there, I visited, I talked a lot with them, and I had this really great story, and I tried to sell it, and they were like, and actually it was published in Beber, because they said, all right, we'll have it. But every other media, supposedly food or drinks media, was like, do they have money to pay for an advertisement?
Wow.
And so we have that issue where I know that the media is not going to be, like, traditional media is not working for drinks. Which is why I had to look to other ways of making money.
If you can't sell Guillermo Sousa's story, like that's madness. He's like, I know Guillermo. We go to Fortaleza a lot when I do this little trip in Mexico. And he's such an interesting guy. I mean, he's got an interesting face. He's like,
the product is amazing.
The product is insanely amazing. He does lots of cool stuff. And there's no living human that's more tequila royalty than Guillermo Sousa. His great-great-grandfather was basically the creator of tequila.
But no, like the food media in Spain doesn't have don't want to publish anything on him unless they have 2,500 euros to pay for an advertisement. Obviously, Fortaleza doesn't have that sort of money in Spain, and you're like, those are the stories I want to write.
Yeah.
So why the fuck would I bother? Because if the thing is, they're going to take those 2,500 and then to me, they're going to pay me 120 euros and, and I spent 4 days in Mexico. It doesn't make any sense. So let's just do the newsletter and write what I want to write about. If people want to read, they read. If they don't, they don't. And that's it. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. I guess from their perspective, there's just, the problem is circular, right? No one's reading, so they need to take money for every article. With they're taking money for, everything's paid to play, but no one's reading it anyway. So they get all their money from the people who are paying to be in the magazine that no one's reading.
Perverse.
So yeah, and they get their readership. I mean, I know the other thing about like newspapers and stuff is that they give them away to airplanes so that they can get their readership numbers up. When you get like free papers on the plane, they count those in the how many thousand users. So then they can go sell to the advertisers like, we do 100,000. Like, you give 80,000 away on Ryanair. Like, it's not real readership. They're all going in the bin. Or whatever.
The same with digital media where that's because you've included all the fucking clickbait stuff.
The click farms. Anyway, so let's talk about some actual real stuff then. I love the rant came so early. One of your books, El Gran Libro del Vermouth. Why vermouth? Maybe we can get into the history of vermouth a little bit, but what draws you to vermouth?
Cocktails.
Cocktails.
I mean,
its place in cocktails, like as a modifier.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the book comes about. So the book was published in 2015, and I got asked to write it in 2013, 2014, which was when the vermouth boom, the craft vermouth boom was materializing in Spain. And so like a publisher asked me, would I be interested in writing a book about vermouth? And obviously I wanted to have a book on vermouth from the Spanish perspective, Spain being probably the only market in the world where vermouth is still consumed straight as a classic aperitivo.
Yeah.
Because even the Italians, where it was invented, on not drinking it straight. They're drinking it in Americanos, in
that's my inclination. But
Yes.
is that correct?
Yeah, it is
Spain seems
correct.
to be the only place where you drink vermouth.
Yeah, so the three traditional markets for vermouth are Italy, France, and Spain, and of the three, the only one where vermouth is, because for example, France is a very big vermouth market, but if you ask French people, they don't know anyone drinking vermouth because people are not drinking vermouth; they're drinking martini. Like they have no awareness of the category. They know this product.
Yeah.
In Spain, no, people go and ask for a vermouth. Right? They still have this thing. And so they asked me to if I wanted to write this book, and I said yes, but I was coming from the cocktail world. I'm not really. I don't know. It's weird to say that after having written the big book of vermouth, but I'm not really a straight vermouth consumer. Like
No.
I do it. I have it and I enjoy it. But my interest in vermouth was really this is a cocktail product, and I love the dry martini, and I love the Manhattan, and I love the Negroni, and so I was interested in vermouth the same way I'm interested in gin. But they asked me to write a vermouth book, not a gin book, and so as I was saying earlier, the issue is I get very obsessed, so I go deep, and they asked me for this tiny book. And I went really deep in the history of vermouth, and I think it's one of the most in-depth history of vermouth. Now you can't find the book anymore, unfortunately. I mean, it was 11 years ago. It's completely sold out.
Yeah.
But on my newsletter, I have the PDF for free.
Okay.
You can download the PDF.
Okay. Download the PDF for free.
Yes.
So give us let's say what is vermouth, and maybe we just talk quickly about the history, because no one's reading anymore, so you may as well tell it us on the podcast.
Yeah, so vermouth is obviously a type of aromatized wine, right? By law, it's the only type of aromatized wine that by law actually has to be fortified. So if it's not fortified, it cannot be vermouth. Vermouth, the word itself comes from the German for wormwood. So we understand that you have to have wormwood in vermouth. The use of wormwood to aromatize wine is very old. You can trace back to the Greeks. That's what we like to do. Always talk about the Greeks doing their stuff. That sort of gives sort of prestige to.
But it's also that thing, right, where history goes as far back as anyone was writing, and the Greeks just wrote a lot of shit down. It's like
and
one of those things.
all
like,
the medicine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm always very reluctant to say, vermouth was invented by the Greeks. The same way I'm very reluctant when people say, cocktails are as old as humanity. Man, I was always mixed. Yes, man, but cocktails are the product of a certain culture and a certain moment in history. The same way what we drink today, if we have a bottle of martini on the table, it's the product of a certain moment in the history of mankind, and that moment was the 18th century. In Turin and Italy, where like this aperitivo thing was crystallized and was created, where it jumped off from the medicinal world that wormwood wine used to be, and the Greeks were coming from the Greeks, and became a lifestyle drink, right?
Okay.
And obviously, to be able to do that, well, you needed people with money, because you're obviously not going to have an aperitivo, a lifestyle drink, if your lifestyle is dying of hunger on the streets on the muddy streets of 18th century Europe. So you need to have that sort of like prosperity. You need to have wine, which obviously they had in Italy, in Piedmont. You need to have the medicinal herbs, which they have in Turin because they're so close to the Alps, and you need to have access to the spices from the east, which they had because Genoa was one of the two harbors for the spice trade. It's very close to Turin. And you need to have the know-how and the knowledge from, and they had because Turin was a center for distillation since the 15th century. And so all of this sort of created the perfect environment to create vermouth in the 19th century. So if you put all those things into a bottle, what you have is what we now call vermouth. And then obviously because we can't, as human beings, we can't let a good thing alone. They always have to find ways to improve it. So, hey, I've got this amazing thing. I'm going to call it vermouth, and this is perfect for aperitivo. And then there's always going to be like, what if we put a bit of, and what if we put a bit of gin in this? What if we put?
Yeah. But how much of that those early days? Or what do we got here, by the way?
So it's vermouth cassis.
Cheers. Francois is hungover today. So.
But after this delicious drink, so vermouth cassis is.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you've never had a vermouth cassis?
No.
Okay. So if I
it seems very French, but I suppose that's just cassis.
It is very French. If I ask you to tell me what is the typical aperitivo of aperitif drink of France,
Pastis.
yeah.
Wow, this is. I know for a fact that it's not, but that's what I feel most people would say.
That's what most people do say.
Yeah. My girlfriend is French. The girl just brought that. I know a lot of French people. I'm like, I've asked them like.
So I want to make something very. I want to make something very, very clear.
Yeah.
I am not French, in spite of the accent, and I hate the French. All right.
Whoa, fucking hell.
Nah, that's not
the whole
true.
country.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of great Frenchmen, and French women. But the French
majority.
The French as a concept.
Trash country. I agree.
No, it's an amazing country with amazing people, of course, and amazing products and amazing drinks. But the thing is, we were talking about like how Spain is the only country where vermouth still drunk as it was meant to be, which is straight. And Italy being the country where now they're doing Americano and blah, blah, blah. The country that has betrayed its aperitivo tradition the most is France. If you go to Paris today and you see the cafes and stuff, they'll have beer and they'll have rosé and they'll have white wine. And if you went there 60 years ago, like the French had this, kid you not, thing where whiskey was their aperitif, like it was in the 50s and 60s. Okay. You had whiskey or highballs, like whiskey and water. That was like, if you had money, if you were a bit bourgeois, that's what you would have as an aperitif. Then in the 1930s, you had the pastis coming up as a substitute of absinthe. But all of those are fake French aperitif. If we're looking at the first wave, like the French invented. So I was saying, like, vermouth was born and aperitivo was born in Turin, but like what made aperitif a mainstream thing, a huge thing, were the French and the boulevardiers and the people who were walking the boulevards in France and stopping for having a drink. And what they had was this. Like, this was the number one, the most popular aperitif in France until the First World War.
Okay.
And
early 1900s.
Yeah, and that's basically like, this is a vermouth cassis, but we could have made it. It's a formula.
So vermouth,
so the French
a fruit
formula,
liqueur, and a little soda.
So yeah, that's basically, you would always have a bit of fruit liqueur. In this, we have cassis or syrup. Could be lemon syrup, could be simple syrup.
Okay.
Orgeat.
Perfect. Oof, that sounds good.
Vermouth or quinquina, so quinine-based aromatized wine, or amer, like a French bitter, like Suze, like gentian.
Yeah, mer piquant.
And then lengthened with sparkling water.
Yeah.
No ice.
Yeah. So those ones would be more like a spritz, right? Like
that was the French format.
Yeah.
So the Italian format was vermouth or bitter lengthened with water.
Yeah.
Because there was no ice, so you diluted and made the drink fresher with sparkling water, with cells. That was the Italian format. Like, so very purely the very respectful of the base product. The French invented the dry vermouth, but they never drank it straight. So they would put a bit of sugar in it, whether it was crème de cassis or other liquors or syrups, as we've discussed, and then lengthen it. And this is a beautiful drink.
Yeah, this is really nice. I can imagine this with.
And for me, it's whenever I'm in Paris, I'm like, this would be so much better if those people were drinking vermouth cassis.
Yeah, nice, just all beers. Yeah, and they certainly don't drink pastis in the levels. But pastis that's a rough aperitif. Like
I like pastis, but it's very much connected to the south of France.
Yeah, yeah, and you need to mix a lot of water in it, which I think a lot of people don't. But certainly in the UK, we don't understand very well. Even accomplished bartenders don't understand how much water you need to add to.
But if you think of it, like pastis is actually a bottled version of the absinthe ritual. Like the traditional way of drinking absinthe in France. Well, you have all the thing with the sugar and blah blah blah. But people would have like orgeat, absinthe, sparkling water. It's the same format as this.
Yeah.
And pastis is basically, okay, we already have the sugar, we have all the anisey flavors, we put this in a bottle, and you only have to add the water, which is basically, this is very easy to make, but you at least need a waiter that was able to make it. And then pastis was like, everyone is getting stupid, we need to make it as simple as possible. For people, it's just like water and a bottle of pastis. And that's it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. But yeah, speaking of like the Spain's approach to vermouth, I really love that. I've got into it since living in Spain. The sort of 3:00 in the afternoon, the sun's going down a little bit, a nice vermouth on a terrace somewhere. Yeah, I love a beer on a terrace, but there's something special about a vermouth. I don't know. There's a nice. I don't know. It feels almost healthy to have a vermouth. A beer feels like okay. Like we're gonna get into it now, but like a vermouth, I just feel it's so refreshing and convivial. I feel it sparks a different kind of conversation almost. I don't know. There's something really special about it, which I'm getting more interested in because I'm so bored of the geeky drink conversations. Yeah. I'm getting so into like the culture of.
I think part of the boom of aperitivo and low alcohol and vermouth and stuff like that is because it's very cultural. And I see that interest like a lot in Northern European countries or in the US, which are countries that don't have that cultural relation to drink. And so you are sort of almost naturally drawn to that lifestyle because you're like, oh, right, it looks so civilized, right? Like I imagine someone from Finland, right, who would take the ferry to go to the Baltics to buy cheap booze and get drunk on the ferry. Like, of course, like if that's what you do with your mates when you're 18 years old, when you go to the south of Europe and then you see those like people having like spending 3 or 4 hours of their afternoon, like instead of working, having this drink, this vermouth or these sherry glasses, the almonds and the olives, basking in the sun, getting slowly tipsy, but very, very slowly, no rush. You're like, yeah, I want that. I want some of that, right? Yeah. And yeah, I think that's.
How much of it do you think how much of the boom do you think is just because it's low ABV and because you can, like you say, you can just slowly get drunk, which is a very it's kind of nice when you kind of like you let it creep up on you a little bit. You almost get drunk behind your own back kind of thing. Whereas because this is very, I'm an Englishman who's lived in Spain for I don't know, many years now, but I see this this difference in the culture, and there's it's well documented the difference in culture between sort of how the Brits drink and how the Spanish drink, or the Mediterraneans in general. The daily drinking just a little bit versus wait till Friday and get leathered. This is have you read the book History of Drunkenness?
Yeah.
That's a great a couple of great points on that. But yeah, I like this, like, you have a few vermouths, and that's kind of why I like it, because when you have a vermouth, you haven't got to plan to get anywhere, you just like have a little. It tastes nice, a little vermouth, and then you might be like 6 vermouths later, and you're not drunk, but you're just you feel good. There's something cultural about it. I don't know.
There's that feeling. I think there's that feeling of openness where I'm gonna have a vermouth and then I'll run into someone, right? I'll meet someone and then they'll be different, and maybe we're just gonna have 2, or maybe then we'll have dinner, or maybe we'll order tapas. There is that like openness to the world and
see what happens, kind of thing.
See what's going to happen. But honestly, the vermouth boom of the last 15 years mostly driven by cocktails.
Yeah.
So it really,
of course, I suppose, outside of Spain,
for sure. It really
sure.
started outside of Spain for sure. Like it really started where this ingredient could be much better than what we have right now, and we need it for Manhattans. It was really, I think, the boom started the same way I approached vermouth, which was, I'm into Manhattan. What goes into it, right? And a lot of the brands at launch were really focused on cocktail bars. And the good thing is that the vermouth proved to be very versatile, where it could adapt to that geeky sort of cocktail historian, twirly mustache we were talking about earlier. But also it tied into that sort of lifestyle choice of people moving away from happy hour to aperitivo, right? Where we have all those countries where between 6 and 8, you have happy hour. And the idea is you're going to have 2 drinks for the price of 1, right? And we are seeing that those countries are now really fascinated by the whole concept of Italian drinks or Mediterranean drinks, which is not about having 2 drinks. It's just like you have this drink and it's low ABV and it's food and there is food, right? So we're changing that concept. I know we'll get into the low ABV, no alcohol thing at some point in the conversation, for sure. I do have, again, I'm not in service. I'm never behind the bar, so I don't have conversation with consumers. I do have some doubts about the fact that people actually walk into bar and say, I want something low ABV.
Okay. Well, let's get into it now. There's no structure.
Well, for sure.
So all right. So you have a doubt about that. Well, I'm interested in that, and I think I definitely think it's something worth challenging.
Look, you said something that was interesting in terms, like you were talking about like having a vermouth in Spain outside that, and it seems healthier than having a beer, almost. Like you said something, in that sense, right?
There's herbs in there, right?
But really, like a lager would be 5.5, and no sugar, right? And a vermouth would be 15, 16 degrees.
But I'm going to drink a shitload of beer.
And 180 grams of sugar, right?
Yeah, so, it's a lot of sugar,
in terms of L's, right? And so for me, it's do consumers know that? And the answer is no.
No, they don't. And the
answer is no.
I know that. This is creme de cassis has got a shitload of sugar in it.
Of course, like the creme de cassis got 400 grams of sugar per liter. That's shit.
And I know that fact, but I still feel it like I can just taste a little bit of fruit in there. So
it's an amazing drink, right?
It's got fruit and herbs. I'm like, this is basically one of my 5 a day. This is perfect.
Which is my whole point.
Yeah.
Like it's my whole point where. Yes, I mean, people are moving towards like vermouth and tonic instead of gin and tonic because they've got the impression of vermouth and tonic because vermouth is not as high in alcohol as gin and tonic. Well, yes, but that's because you've not factored the rest of it, which is the amount of sugar you're putting into your body. And, I teach a lot and I teach people who are studying marketing of wine and spirits. And I always tell them, like, never lie to the consumer. Never tell them this has no sugar. But my advice is, as long for vermouth, as long as they don't ask about the sugar, don't tell them, right? And that sort of thing I see with vermouth consumers is that all right, they sort of know it's got less alcohol than gin and maybe it's healthier, but they don't know that it has got that level of sugar. Makes me think that, most consumers, when they go into a bar and they order something, they don't really know what they're ordering.
No. But do you think that's why they would order a low ABV? Are they ordering low ABV for health reasons, or do they just not want to get too fucked up?
I think the health reasons are overblown.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Well, I say to a certain degree, because
Look, I'm gonna say one thing.
Yeah.
Like most of the people who are commenting on like younger people drinking healthily, blah, 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 are like old fucks like you and me. So we're
Don't know what
talking
we're
about
talking
people who've
about.
drunk too much in their life.
Yeah.
And then like now I'm all into this like mindfulness, and I'm yoga, and I'm stretching, and I'm doing this, and I'm going 5 days without drinks and blah blah blah, right? And people are unable not to project their own shit on other people. And so they're saying, oh, like, yeah, those people, like, they're into this because no, it's your liver is fucked, so you drink less. And then you think that those people are like more aware of, because that's what you want to see in the next generation. You're projecting your own shit on other people. And if you ask younger people, yes, they'll talk about health, but that's because they've been told they have to talk about health. Really, if you see what people are drinking in bars,
You think it's the same?
I don't know. I mean, I'm in Madrid, and I went to those places that opened in the last year or so, and I see like I have one particular place in mind where I went there 3 weeks ago with a few friends of mine, and we looked at the crowd there, and they were all 22, 23 years old. I was like, fuck, like, they could be my kids. You know what? It's like the second best-selling cocktail in that place is the Dirty Martini.
Yeah. Dirty Martini?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Yeah, then
The first one is their twist on the Porn Star Martini.
Yeah.
The second one is a Dirty Martini. And in number 5, you've got the Negroni. Like, doesn't strike me as low ABV.
Dirty Martini is definitely not low ABV.
I was listening to the other day to, I think it was a Philip Duff podcast with Paul Mathieu from Everleaf. And he said something that's really struck, like, I think he's onto something, where he said, if you're going to drink less, whether it's for health reason or, for me, the reality is money.
Yeah.
If you're going to drink less, the fastest way to get there is a dry martini. So if you're going to do Zebra, if you're going to do like low ABV or no alcohol, no ABV, get a dry martini. Don't get a daiquiri, get a dry martini.
Why? Just because it's going to cost you less to get where you need to go?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, but then you don't have a drink in your hand as long. I think that's certainly, like for me, if I have a drink in front of me, it's getting drunk real fast. I'm not going to nurse a dry martini for 4 hours, but I can have. Yeah, but I think everyone has this thing, we're talking, we're drinking, the glass is going to the mouth. It's like smoking, like half of what people miss is having the cigarette in their hand, I think there's something tactile about it. So yeah, a dry martini, sure. In a perfect world, that's right. Yeah, have a dry martini. It's going to be way cheaper for you. You're going to get the same amount of alcohol as you would from like 5 drinks. But people want to have a drink in their hand and chat and be convivial, and there's a feeling of, oh, we're drinking together. And there's also that thing about like dry martini comes and slaps you in the back of the head like that. Four vermouths. I mean, this is a very Spanish centric thing though. No one's drinking 4 vermouths anywhere else in the world. But if you have 4 vermouths in Spain, they'll probably cost you about €10 or something like that.
Depending where you go, in Barcelona.
Depending where you go, yeah, for sure. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. There must be some statistics on this, right? Like people ordering. I suppose they can always be bastardized the stats a little bit.
Oh, they always are.
Yeah. Yeah, to fit an agenda. I know one of the Gen Z stats was like, everyone was like going crazy. Like, it was 50% of Gen Zs don't drink. And it was like, someone actually made a point like, yeah, but 50% of, like, back when the article came out, it's like, yeah, like 40% of Gen Z are under 18. So of course they don't drink. They're 14 years old. And people were throwing that stat out like it was crazy. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a really good point.
So I actually wrote a bit on the newsletter, which is in Spanish. Maybe some people can read it, but and I'm very interested in all the numbers that are getting published around that. And the crazy thing is what you said is exactly what happened. Because the first articles that were published about Gen Z and the attitude to drinks, they didn't even they didn't even go to the trouble of saying, all right, before publishing those numbers, we need to make, of course, like only that percentage of Gen Z is above 18 years old. A lot of those numbers also come from the US, where it's 21.
Yeah.
Right. And now you have a series of articles because when those first ones came out, everyone was saying, yeah, well, I mean, the issue really, like the contrarian in the article, like you always have the contrarian experts saying, like, well, we need to look at this with a bit more perspective. And they were always saying, well, the issue is not what they're drinking when they're 18. The issue is what they're drinking when they're 28. Right. And so now that Gen Z is getting older, you'll see, if you look at it, that every 6 months we get an article where we see that the rate of drinking from Gen Z is going up.
Yeah.
Well, of course, as they get older, which is what really is what we should look at and interesting. And also, if you pay attention to this, you see less and less articles that are talking about health.
Yeah.
More and more are talking about, like, the drop in consumption of alcohol, blah, 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 is linked to inflation, politics, tariffs, and that's it. It's cost of living.
Yeah. I think it's mostly cost of living. I think there's some truth. I'm not sure how much. I don't know if it's measurable. I think there's some truth to the fact that people are a little bit scared to get in the same state as I would have got when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, because when I was 18, 19, 20, there wasn't smartphones. People didn't have a camera in their pocket. So I used, like, people could have videoed me doing some mad shit back in the early 2000s, but luckily there was no smartphones around. Now, I guess if I was 19 years old, I'd be like, okay, this is my limit, because after this point, I don't know what's going on, and anyone could video anything of me, and it could be on the internet, especially if you're, I don't know, like if you're online and you're posting and you've grown up in that world. I think there's some element of that, but again, we're just old men projecting onto kids who've grown up with
always
smartphones.
Keep in mind, don't project on other people.
Always keep in mind, yeah.
But yeah, I took my first shot of a spirit when I was 15 years old. It was a shot of tequila in a bar, because in Belgium you can legally, I haven't lived in Belgium for 17 years now, but I don't know if the law changed, but you could legally get a beer at 16 and spirits at 18. But because I was 15 and most of the bar stuff was 18 or 19, I had my first shot of tequila when I was 15. I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you can get tequila if you're 15, if you have a friend buying, but in a bar, that doesn't happen anymore. I'm very aware I'm coming from another generation, right? And yes, things are changing, and yes, maybe people are a bit more health conscious, etc., etc. And it's a factor, and everything contributes to whatever is happening right now. But again, going back to the thing where I have my doubts. I mean, it's the same thing where you probably remember where people are like, I don't like sweet drinks, right?
Yeah.
And actually they would order sweet drinks, right? I want a mojito, but I don't want a mojito without sugar. Obviously, you would put sugar in the fucking mojito, because if not, it wouldn't be undrinkable.
Yeah.
I want low ABV, but can you put a bit more alcohol or whatever?
Yeah, they say things that sound cool to say.
I would say, though, that whatever happens with low ABV and non-alc, I think the environment where all of this is most viable is the cocktail bar. Because the cocktail bar is still able to sell you the experience.
Yeah.
Which is not happening with wine, which is not happening in a restaurant, which is not happening with beer.
Yeah. I think certainly in sort of, the award level cocktail bars, the menus are so complex that if they do it well, and I think a lot of them do, the guest should just really give up and say, because even me, man, like, I mean, I have my own bars where I've just been out of the game a little bit. I'm still in the game, but like I'm just like, I'm not in that world as deeply as I once was. And some of the ingredients that our guys are like using now, I have to ask them. I'm like, hey, what is this? And if I'm asking that as someone who has spent his entire life in this industry, what is the average guest doing? Like, I mean, there's all these like things. It's very heavy in the UK. Like we just jump on trends.
Well, we're going back to what we were saying earlier, and one
very
of the thing
trend
is,
driven. Yeah.
I think for the economical health of the drinks industry and the cocktail bar, etc., it needs to be relatable.
Yeah.
And again, going back to what we were discussing earlier, my issue with a lot of it is, all right, I mean, yeah, you are the top guy in the city and then you can live off that. But there's so many people who want to do the same thing you are doing. Like, you need to be relatable for this to be like we're talking a lot about sustainability. We should talk about the sustainability of the cocktail as a drinks option, right? And you need to be relatable. Yeah. And also, I think sustainability of cocktail. I feel I'm jumping like this all the time from one subject to the other.
But yeah, speaking, to go on an absolute segue, but like
this is like a bar conversation. Bar conversation don't make sense. So I'm very sorry for anyone who's listening to this.
It doesn't matter.
Sorry, guys. I'm on Golda. I'm having a drink. I'm gonna. Maybe we should get the dry martini now and not the Ron Collins.
Just go all in, man. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. We don't. Yeah, but speaking about sustainability, like this is like a trend, like you say, like the low ABV thing. Like if we go back one trend ago, it was sustainability, right? And we go back one more trend from that, it was like vegetarianism and veganism, and you can just keep going back in these trends, and they just go whoop. And the bubble pops, and I think that.
But the good thing is
corporations killed that sustainability thing by basically, one analogy I always use. Well, it's not even really an analogy. It's a real life. Like when you go into a hotel and they have little signs on the wall that say, to save the planet, we don't clean the towels anymore. Like, okay, I get it, but that's not to save the planet. That's for your budget.
It's bottom line. It's bottom line.
And then I started going to hotels in the UK, and they're pretty good hotels, but they say, now to save the planet, we don't use cleaning chemicals. So if you want your room cleaned, you have to ask at the front desk. And I'm like, you stop blaming the planet, guys. Like, you just want to save money.
When you could just blame Brexit and say, we don't have cheap labor anymore.
Yeah, exactly. We can't afford to clean the rooms
cleaners.
Anymore. Yeah. Clean your own room.
No, but for me, all right, okay. Let's not. I don't want to be the guy who's always talking shit about trends. Trends come and go, and for me, the important thing is, I mean, we can all laugh about, like, I go into bars and, like, they've got 10 cocktails on the menu, 7 of them are clarified. We can laugh about this. I was the other day at the bar where I was like, so you've clarified the spirit and then put the clarified spirit into a cocktail you then clarified. Like, the fuck are you doing? So we can laugh all we want about that. The fact is, as you said earlier, like a milk punch is a really good drink, right? And
exactly.
If the cost of the trend, I mean, everyone was talking about sustainability a few years ago, but the fact of the matter is a lot of bars are much more aware of sustainability now than they were a few years ago. So that's a positive, right? Clarification, I'm done with it. Like, I'm through. I don't get... But there are some great drinks that are clarified drinks, and they will remain there, right? And they weren't there 10 or 15 years ago.
Well, the milk punch is, 150 years old or something?
25 years or 30 years ago. Yes, of course. But like 40 years ago, people were drinking Manhattans without bitters and on ice, like this. And now, not everywhere, but, like most decent cocktail bar will do you a proper Manhattan.
Yeah.
So there's always something staying from those trends. We can laugh at the trends, but at some point, there's always something staying. And that's how we should, like, assess them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that's why I said before, like, my concern is sometimes when you go deep into the trend, but so far that it becomes ridiculous, then people start seeing it as cringe, and I think it reduces your ability to take something valuable from it. So I think what we need is, and there's no one has control over this, but we need people to just stop before it gets ridiculous. And go, okay, we've reached the point where we've extracted the value out of this. Let's keep the value and then not be cringe anymore. But what my concern is sometimes you go so far that then people go, this is all bullshit. Like the sustainability thing. If all the corporations talk about being sustainable, then we can't talk about being sustainable anymore. Maybe we really care about it. Maybe we actually are sustainable. But there's a point where it got ruined by everybody talking about it, and the average person can't cut the bullshit from the truth anymore because it's all mixed together kind of thing. And I think that's the worry with
No, for sure.
trends when they go too far. It's like have a trend for the purpose of exploring a topic and then go and finding the value in it. And then
so the smartest people, the leaders, etc., don't need us to tell them this is what's valuable in this. It's the young kids coming up, right? And you're doing a lot of education. You dedicate yourself to education, right? That's the issue, right? For me, that's the issue. Is the new generation coming up. Like, what message do they receive? And maybe we will get into education and training at some point in the discussion. But there's a lot of issues with how we focus like education and training in this industry, which is always trend driven. And again, that's the same, because there is a trend, and then the brand puts a lot of money in the trend, and the brand puts, like, the only people who are actually paying for education would be the brands in a lot of cases. Obviously the brands say, oh well, this is the trend right now, so my education needs to be in this trend, and we get people who don't get the correct information.
Education's, it's a very strange one in the bar industry, right? I mean, like, again, it's always helpful, I think, to compare us to food, like how the food industry works and why are we different, and because there's similar kind of people, similar kind of industry, same industry essentially. But there's no shame in a chef going to college and becoming a chef. You literally shouldn't be calling yourself a chef unless you trained officially to become a chef. And we're all fine with that. We all just accept it. But for bartender, like, formalized education is, I wouldn't say frowned upon, but it's not seen as valuable as like being thrown in the deep end and just learning on shift. Like that's how it's always been. It's not revered in the same way, and I kind of get that. Like there's reasons for that, because there's a bunch of trash bartender schools out there that after prohibition just would just snake oil kind of thing. But I suppose where a lot of the education comes from, I think a lot of the education, like you say, comes from brands. It comes from seminars, like from brand, that either paid by brands or directly from a brand, or it comes from people bar hopping, which means you get a lot of labor turnover. They work at one bar for 3 months, they learn everything, they absorb all the menu, they absorb all the training, and then they're like, cool, you got nothing else to teach me? I go to the next bar now, which is not great for bars, because you invest a lot of money to train this person, and then they go somewhere else, and they use you as a platform to jump somewhere else because you're number 20 on the list, but really they want to be at a bar that's number 10 on the list, locally or nationally or globally or whatever. So there's a lot of that. But yeah, I don't. How do people get trained in this industry? What's your view on it? Because I have probably quite a narrow view on it, I guess.
I don't know. I've done a lot of education over the last 10 or so, like teaching, whether it's vermouth or even like marketing of or history of the cocktail. I don't know. I don't really have for me, it's talking with bar owners and realizing, like, I had a discussion yesterday a conversation yesterday with a prominent bar owner in Spain, and I asked him, like, where do you guys come from? What are your like, in terms of trainings? Where do they come from? And we had this like top bar in Spain. The guy from this top bar in Spain said, well, I prefer to train them myself. Why? Because the people who are coming to us from those famous training institution or education, they were not good. And why were they not good? Because all the education in the bar industry is creating expectations that have no relationship to the actual work, right? I'm not going to name names, but there's this like very famous like center doing education for bartenders for a few years now, and I know like bars that used to take them as trainees. Part of the program is you go out and you do internship, and I'm like, I'm not taking those people anymore. Like I asked them to clean the bar. Or to take their trash out, and no. I'm studying there. I want to be involved in the creation process. I mean, you've literally been here 3 days.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure we're the issue is we're not. I don't think there is a good. I mean, EBS is one of the of like most of the places where I ran into a lot of EBS alumni. And you know that always sort of give a bit of a level of confidence, because I it's not because we're talking here that I'm saying that. It is probably the only one. Like the others, like you don't even look at the training. You look wherever you worked, right? And a lot of the training now is like, how you have money to spend, you have money to put into this. Okay, you're putting this money in there, and I'm gonna tell you about Rotovap.
Yeah.
Right. But no bar in the world is gonna take you because you've been trained there and give you the Rotovap. You're gonna have to spend it, like,
Of course, yeah.
do the miles, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the biggest issue with training in the industry right now, is that we're creating this expectation that you're going to be a star tender, going to be doing all this crazy shit, and actually you need to clean the fucking toilets. That's what the boss is going to ask of you for the first whatever months.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean that doesn't stop. It doesn't get better, you know. Like that's the thing. Like that's. And
if you're a bar owner, you're still gonna clean the fucking toilets anyway.
In fact, you're a
plumber.
You're a funnel to the worst possible jobs. You know, like it's like the staff will clean the toilets, sure, when they're working fine, but the worst problems funnel down to the venue manager or bar owner, and it's like, when the toilet breaks and there's shit overflowing, then it's like, then the staff will be like, no, and then the owner will come. So it's like, oh yeah, I've been in the industry 25 years, like, I'm not going to ask my staff to go and fix the toilet when there's stuff overflowing out of it. It's like, that's going to be me. I'm going to go in there. So it doesn't actually get any better. So you need to just accept that and not be precious about it. But I do, you know, like from the bar school side of things, I know a lot of these other bar schools, and I'm not here to, you know, talk ours up and others down, but I know what a lot of them do over time is they slowly edge towards these courses that don't really make any sense, and a lot of them are drop in, drop out. You know, you can come in, you can do a day here, and you can do a day here, and it's maximum flexibility, and you can there's 17 different types of courses that you can do, and they've got these crazy names like Genius Bartender and Star Tender, and you become this, and they sell you a dream because they know you're going to be a one-time customer. So they just need to get the money out of you there and then. And it's like, once you paid, they're gonna sell you what you want. And this it's a product. It's a product where your customer is that student, right? Like, I think a lot of the bartender schools, they don't see the bar owner, because that's the long game. The long game is the bar owner is your customer, really. You're training people for them, and you want to get a name for yourself where these people pay to take your course, and then they go and work well in a bar, and that bar owner goes, oh, I'll hire more of your people. And then you get a name for yourself as someone who trains people well, and that adds value to the customer. But that's a very long game and difficult to communicate. Much easier to just sell you a dream directly, like, hey, you're going to be the best. And then after you leave, doesn't matter, right? Like, you know, you can go and be shit, and I didn't need to tell you that you need to clean toilets, and you know, most of it's cleaning. That's not the sexy part, but you have to do that, you know. So yeah,
you realize, like, we are 20 years into the so-called cocktail renaissance, right? 20 years
so-called, yeah.
And bars at the top end of the industry still understand or have this sort of ingrained knowledge that they have to do the training themselves.
Yeah.
20 years on, right?
Yeah, but this is
20
crazy.
years. 20 years ago, it was completely logical. There was no one doing what those people were trying to do. 20 years later, you have this top end of the industry that say, we're going to have to do the training ourselves.
Yeah.
And again, that's going back to the difference with chefs, where you say, all right, I have to show this person how to do it my way.
Mm-hmm.
But this person knows how to make an omelette.
Yeah. And it's so inefficient. Like because it's inefficient for the bartender or the worker who's working their way up to that, because they're not going to get a job in an amazing place straight away. So they have to find a job in a place that's willing to train them from zero, which is going to be a bar that can't hire someone with a lot of experience, because if they could, they would. So they're hiring you because, you know, they haven't got many better options. You seem like a good guy. You're willing to learn on the job. Okay, let's go. And maybe you work up like that. So it's inefficient in that way that maybe you're not going to be working in a great bar until you're 25. Even if you start at 18, it's going to take you 6 or 7 years to get there, rather than just go to an educational institution. I don't even need to say a school really, but something like that, and take a formalized education. But it's and then it's very inefficient for the bar to say, I'm going to train them on everything myself. It's like, well, yeah, like, so then and because we've got this high labor turnover in the industry as well, it means you're constantly training people, and you're like 3 months. And even in my bar, we like our training period, like we finish it with like a drink demo where you design a like 3 drinks that would be in our style, and you present them, and then you get signed off, and that's when you're considered a fully fledged bartender. It's 3 to 6 months, that period, you know, and a lot of the training hours are not really profitable training hours. They're purely training. They're not hours where we're making money off those people. So it's very expensive to do it that way. And you'll never delete all of it. There's always going to be in-house stuff that, you know, like, we do this way. This is our levels of service. There's going to be onboarding training, but there's so much that could be taught out of house that there isn't, because we do, as an industry, we just haven't agreed what that is yet. But
yeah, for sure.
I don't see a solution to it really. You know, like.
I mean, again, I mean, if it's we're still the same situation we were 20 years ago. Well, yeah, obviously there's no solution, because if there were, in 20 years we'd have found it.
Yeah. Why do you think it is though? Do you think it's just because there's a bunch of snake oil salesmen out there and a bunch of pretentious guys who finished a bartender school and then went to a bar and they were like, I'm not cleaning the toilets, because they were sold a dream of, you know, like some star-tender life, and they get a rude awakening, and then those bar owners are just like, well, I'm not hiring these assholes anymore. Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah. Anyway, back to... I want to talk about another one of your books, Prohibitions.
Yeah, well, that was the first one. It was very short.
How long ago was that?
Like 2014, yeah.
2014.
Yeah, that was
very apt for that time.
Written in French, very short, 60 pages. You can read it while you take a shit. That was the idea. And that was it was a very short book. It was 20 pages on each chapter was 20 pages on this different moment where the state decided one way or another to prohibit something. So it was about gin in the UK, gin in England. The gin craze and all the attempts to regulate it. It was about the prohibition in the US and the absinthe in France.
Okay.
I was really about like the political context, how it came to be, and what were the effects of those decisions, which I argued were always negative. And that's it. And that was the first book I wrote. And since then, I've always been very interested in the politics of alcohol, which is why we were talking earlier about no law and stuff like that, and percentages. It's something I was always very much attentive to. Yeah.
So would you consider the I've never really thought about the gin craze being any kind of prohibition. Certainly, it was.
No, but there were attempts
illegal a lot.
Yeah, there were attempts to reduce the. It was all about regulating.
Yeah,
regulating the trade. Yeah.
Yeah, which I suppose also happened in Scotland to some degree, but more to do with tax, right? Like,
Well, I mean, a lot of the time, like regulation is through taxes, and a lot of with alcohol, it's always like we're going to prohibit this stuff. Oh, we actually need the money from the taxes. So
yeah, and wasn't the gin craze was a little bit tax-based, I suppose, because it was so difficult to get into the market to actually make gin legally that most people were making it illegally, and there was just way too much of it.
Well, there were a lot of different phases and a lot of different taxes and a lot of different. It was very. But I think the underlying argument was those three things were like attitude to gin, prohibition in the US, and attitude to absinthe was always like there was a moral. Sort of moral panic component to it. And that's what I was interested in, how some substance or something was blamed for all the ills in society, and how that drove public action, and what were the secondary negative effects of that public action.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the French one is kind of that we had phylloxera that killed wine production. Absinthe kind of came and took a lot of that market in France, especially, and then there was a lot of propaganda about the wormwood being sort of an hallucinogenic, which is not untrue, but basically untrue in
well, you need very high concentrations,
very high quantities. Isn't it something like the cauliflower has more than wormwood or something? There's some vegetable that has a higher concentration of
Toujon.
What is it called?
Toujon.
Toujon.
Which is
the chemical.
the component of within wormwood.
Yeah.
That is potentially poisonous.
Yeah. And then they banned absinthe, and is it still illegal in the it's not illegal in the US, no, because I used to go to an absinthe, but until quite recently it was like 20 years ago or something. I'd say quite recently, 20 years ago, something like that.
We're old. No, but then they've analyzed like old absinthe, and they say, well, there was no issue with the old absinthe, so it was never really it was a moral panic that was also partially driven by wine producers that were trying to get rid of a competitor, which is something we're also seeing. We're also seeing right now, like where whenever there's like things about health and alcohol right now, and whatever governments say, oh, we're going to change labels or we're going to put this and that. Like there's always that sort of thing where the wine people say, well, wine is like this. This is all on the spirits. This is all in the spirits. The issue is they don't realize that they're going to come after them anyway, right? I mean, even if you say, okay, it's the gin that's going to be taxed more, at one point they're going to come after you. So I think like all booze producers, whether you wine, beer, or spirits, needs to band together.
Yeah.
And fight back.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, most of them are owned by one of the big five companies anyway, right?
Because history shows us that when you don't band together, you get fucked.
Yeah. Well, we need some more of that for sure. But so how do you see it now? Like you think there's a negative connotation towards spirits, and that's being sort of heavily taxed because of.
One, there's always. I mean, we're in Spain, and in Spain you have zero taxes on wine. So
yeah. There's a heavy tax on spirits here. I actually don't know like what.
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like in Spain.
you have. On the producing side, right? Obviously, there's VAT when you buy in the shop, but on the producing side, yes, you get taxed by hectoliters, and it's much higher for spirits than it is wine is zero. So
yeah. And beer.
Beer is intermediary.
Okay.
I don't have the numbers in my head, but we're talking about. I have the numbers because I also did an article on this where I was like talking about shrinkflation in spirits, where the spirits go from being 42 degrees to 40 and then to 37.5. And like this is all about
shrinkflation. Yeah.
It's all about economics. Like, what are the taxes? How much do you avoid paying? And obviously, Spain is much lighter than the UK or in France. I think UK is the highest that I've looked at.
Yeah. I own a bar in the UK. The tax is insane now, but I won't get into that because it'll be
For another full
I'll just get
session.
depressed. Yeah, but yeah. So your book was like prohibitions. You just focused on those three because I know
Yeah.
like around the time of the U.S. prohibition, there was a lot of countries that tried prohibition.
There's a lot. There was stuff in some parts of Mexico. There was stuff in Finland. There was stuff
Finland
in
was one, yeah.
Sweden. There's stuff in Russia,
Yeah.
etc. Yeah, I mean, it was not meant to be an encyclopedia, and also I needed it was a very short book, as I said, and I also needed to focus on stuff that I could find documents for. Well, but Belgium has had also its version. I could have written about Belgium. Belgium is actually quite fun, in a way. So after the First World War, they changed the law where you couldn't serve spirits in bars because apparently we had this issue with Genever, which is the Dutch and Belgian version of gin.
Yeah.
Where working class people were drinking too much of it. So Genever was never banned, but you couldn't buy spirits in bars, and you can only buy them in shops by 2 bottles. Like you could not buy 1 bottle; you had to buy 2 liters. And that was meant to make sure that poor people were not losing the money on spirits. And that law was in effect until the early 80s.
How does making people buy 2 bottles instead of 1?
Well, because if you're poor, you cannot afford 2
Can't
bottles.
afford 2. But if you just grab another poor person and just be like, do you want to go halves on 2 bottles or something?
But
I guess it could
which
work,
is
I
very
suppose.
funny because these unexpected effects. So, for example, do you like beer?
Yeah, of course.
Do you like Belgian beers?
Yeah, I like Belgian beers.
You've had triple beers, right?
Yeah. This
Triple beer, which is around 9 degrees, 9 degrees.
yeah, I
Those
prefer something a bit easier
like-
drinking, but yeah, I'll drink one. Yeah.
we have that idea that those are like monk beers and stuff like that. They're very traditional.
Yeah.
No. That style of beer was born when this happened to spirits.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So beer producers went like, oh, we've got all those guys who can't afford Genever anymore. Let's do like high proof beer and sell that.
15% beers.
High proof beer and sell that to them. So all the 8-9% beers are coming from after the First World War
Oh, really? Okay.
because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people will find a way of getting drunk.
Of course. Yeah, and the amount actually the amount that the alcohol industry in general is shaped by tax laws and finding loopholes is insane.
Yes.
Like, there's so much of it. Like Scotch whiskey, like one thing I teach about a little bit sometimes is Scotch whiskey versus Irish whiskey, and the way they separated was purely down to tax laws. The English were taxing both of them, but the Scotch decided to go and hide in the mountains and therefore needed tiny little stills, and they would just distill their Scotch whiskey in the mountains and hide. And we were taxing the Irish by the still rather than by the litre, so they just made very, very big stills. Like, of course, if you're going to be taxed by the still, the bigger the still is, the lower the tax rate you're going to have. So then we end up with Irish whiskey and Scotch whiskey, very sort of, floral and intense, very soft and, aromatic. You're going to have these differences, and tax laws everywhere have just been shaped by this.
Of course.
It's just, yeah, so, or the industry has been shaped by the tax laws, I should say. Yeah. Last book, and then I won't talk about your books anymore. You said 5, but I don't know. I don't know your 5. 101 cocktails to try before you die.
Yeah, so, well, you're talking about the first 3, actually. So Prohibition is the first one, and I wanted 1 cocktails to try, which was first in French and then in English, a Grand Niveau de Vermouth, and then I published one called Mueble Bar, which is about the structure of classic cocktails, and the last one was Madrid Cocktail, which is the history of the cocktail in Madrid.
Oh, okay, Madrid cocktails. So Mueble Bar, what is Mueble Bar about?
The idea is, well, maybe it will sound familiar to people who've read Desenco Cocktail Codex.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But mine is much more basic in the sense that I think that if you learn to make 3 cocktails well, you can make all the cocktails you actually need, which is if you know how to make an old-fashioned Manhattan, and a daiquiri,
Yeah.
you don't need any more. So
Yeah.
the book is divided in 3 parts, which is let's make an old fashioned, and then once we have the old fashioned, a few versions. Then the same thing with Manhattan, the same thing with daiquiri. So from the daiquiri, we can get to the Collins. We just add,
Of course. Yeah.
sparkling water, and we get a run of Collins.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. That was initially, it was a book for consumers, like for people who want to make cocktails at home, because I think like you have those people who are doing their own like sushi or whatever, and then they're like a Negroni. You can't make a Negroni. I'm like, no, it's really easy if you know the basics. So the idea was that, but also I think it served as a sort of a manual for people getting started in the industry. Because one of the things we didn't talk about trainings, I think, and again going to the like basic tortilla plate joint and stuff like that. Like we have a big issue where even bartenders are like are 1 or 2 years into their career and working at decent place, they can't really make good classics.
Yeah.
So the book also had that component where what I'm talking a lot about is if you know how to make those 3 drinks, you can make all those others because they share a structure. I realized again, I've taught like these 3 cocktail for a long time, and I realized I was talking about those classics to the students who are all working bartender or going to move into bartending world. And they just didn't understand how the cocktails I was talking about worked, right? And so so that was the idea behind the
So
book.
what is the structure? I probably agree with you. I want to check the structure. So old fashioned. I mean, essentially, that's where the word cocktail comes from, right?
I mean, we're talking about like
sugar bitters,
blue
whiskey,
sugar bitters, right? What
bitters.
happens if instead of sugar, I'm going to put liquor into it? Like, how does it affect the other ingredients? This is the easiest. Like the old fashioned is the easiest.
Yeah.
But if we're moving into a sour formula, and I was basically asking like how, like why. Look, if I'm saying like a daiquiri is going to be 6.3, 1.5 or 2, depending on the sourness of the lime, why, if I'm like deciding to use instead of sugar a liquor, why am I having more sugar? If I'm doing a pisco sour and I'm having like egg whites, why am I all of a sudden putting more sugar into it? Like basic stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I realized like teaching classes to those young kids that were actually most of them already working in bars, that they didn't really understand that you have to put a bit more sugar into pisco sour than a daiquiri because egg white.
Yeah.
Right. And so part of the structure was like asking them like, why do I put more sugar in a pisco sour? And realize that you have 20 bartenders in front of you and none is raising his or her hand saying because egg white.
Yeah.
Or why am I putting more Benedictine in this version of the old fashioned than I put sugar in an old fashioned? Because there's less
sugar in Benedictine than there is
in simple syrup, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, the fuck is like there is something wrong here.
Yeah.
And then I realized that a lot of the bad drinks I have, like I'm a big old fashioned lover, and I for a while stopped ordering old fashioned at bars because they were always making those versions of the old fashioned and they never had the correct mouthfeel.
Yeah.
And that's it, because they were like we don't have the sugar, and when we're going to put this, and they never understood like the exact way it works. Like, well, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
And people want dry stuff. Yeah, but an old fashioned is not dry. Old fashioned needs to have that. Old fashioned is not a dry drink.
No.
It's a Swedish drink with structure, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that for me, or at least, and everything I do is because it's very selfish. I just want to drink better.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely think like from a bartender's perspective, I've definitely been guilty of this. not that I've been a working bartender for many years, but when someone asks me for an old-fashioned, you know, usually it's like I'm doing an event or a talk, or I'm on my bar and we're closed and I'm doing something for whatever. It's usually not a customer bartender relationship. It's usually something a bit more casual than that. But they say, make me an old-fashioned. The bartender in me, the creative bartender in me immediately goes, I can twist this, you know, because it's so easy to play with. That, like, if you ask me for an old fashioned, I almost feel I'm cheating myself out of an opportunity to create something. Yeah, to do something. I don't know, like that.
Showcase your greatness.
Yeah, and it's not about me. Like, if you were like an old fashioned, I should just be like, I'll make you an old fashioned. There's your old fashioned. Like, doesn't matter. But like, I just want to like go, but I could do this, and I'm looking around. Oh, what do we got? You know, like, and look, we got a salted caramel syrup here. And I'm like, why would I put a regular sugar syrup in there when I've got a salted caramel syrup here? And like, why not add a bar spoon of Benedictine and just add a little bit of herbaceousness to it, you know? And then you play around. But yeah, I don't know what my point is there exactly, but like, is like, I suppose like it's like, yeah, classics have their place, but bartenders always want to play, you know. It's like, and
yeah, but then if you play, it's always like play around the structure that you understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you should understand it.
And control, which is like, well, okay, dry martini. All right, I want a low ABV dry martini. It's impossible, but I want. So yeah, have something like
it's gonna taste like shit, right?
Well, yeah, I have something like the Coronation cocktail, which is amazing. Manzanilla, Rufino, and dry vermouth, and then something else, which is maraschino, right? And you're like, and orange bitters, and you're like asking those bartenders, saying, oh yeah, so I've taken like the gin away and I've put manzanilla instead, right? Why am I putting 5 or 7.5 mils of maraschino in the drink? What's the use of maraschino? And it's like, well, obviously, I mean, there's two flavor exhausters in two main flavor exhausters, right, in cocktails, which is sugar and booze.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this, and I've removed the gin, and I'm having manzanilla, which is 18 degrees. There's loads of character, so it's a lot of flavor. Yes. I still need that extra small doses of sugar to make it work. That's why the maraschino is in there.
Yeah.
And the difference between an amazing bartender and just a correct bartender is that a correct bartender would have put manzanilla, bitters, and gin, and it's a decent drink. An amazing bartender realizes it lacks that bit of depth, that bit of structure, and those 5 mLs or 7.5 mLs of maraschino is the difference between a decent drink and an amazing drink. And there's not a lot of bartenders who seem to understand that.
Yeah.
Today, and I'm sounding like I'm sounding like an ass right now. I'm sorry, but
no, but it's fine.
To a lot of, not to you, but to a lot of people who are hopefully listening to this.
Fuck these people. I
Fuck
don't care
them.
about them.
Yeah.
We don't care about these people. What do they know? But yeah, and I think that's even harder. You know, like, yeah, you're chasing depth, and I think this, like, you know, to go slightly back to like low and no, especially no ABV. You know, when you say like a no ABV martini or whatever, it's infinitely harder. Like I
Of course,
you know, I can create a pretty
it's like
good,
cooking
a pretty
without
good
salt.
cocktail. It's like, it's so difficult to, because really what you like what's the difference between a good a glass of Coca-Cola or my preference, if I was gonna, I don't really drink soft drinks, but if I was gonna drink a Coca-Cola, I'd drink it out of the can, like freezing cold out of the can. What's the difference between that and a non-alcoholic cocktail? I think you need to be able to answer that question before you can make a non-alcoholic cocktail, because really the difference is that a cocktail has a challenging nature to it. You shouldn't be able to just down a cocktail and enjoy it. Like, you shouldn't be able to go goop, 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 goop. That's refreshing. No, it's not supposed to be that. Like, that's not what a cocktail is. You're supposed to sit there and take a sip and it tastes good, but you get this feeling. I mean, you can give it technical names. You can say it's depth, it's astringency, it's mouthfeel, it's length, it's complexity. but you're also listening. You want it to be challenging, almost. You know, like a glass of Coke isn't challenging, but like, you know, if I drink a martini, I know that like a sip tastes good to me, and I'm like, oh, that's good, and it's like, it's almost like my body knows it's poison, but it's good poison, and I'm okay with it, and I'm accepting it because it tastes good, because, you know, there's a little pinch of sea salt in there or whatever. You know, it's just got this right amount of depth. But a glass of Coca-Cola is great as well, you know, like, but we're trying to, you know, like, well, I suppose with a no ABV, we're trying to charge like, you know, almost cocktail prices for what is essentially, you know, like, it can't taste like a glass of Coke. You can't charge €8 or €10 or whatever in a no ABV cocktail.
I think we're going back to what I was saying, where I think that like the greatest opportunity for no and low is the cocktail world, because precisely one of the great effects of the technification of cocktails over the last few years is that bartenders now are having their toolkit so many ways to give structure, complexity, etc., to homemade ingredients without alcohol, like way beyond kombucha, right?
Yeah.
You can play with fermentation, you can play with clarification, you can play with a lot of stuff that would create non-alc drinks that are interesting, complex, they've got depths, and then you can sell at a good price, which is the reasons why I don't believe in non-alc gin, for example.
I was just about to ask you, like, what's your opinion on non-alc gin?
No, I think it's a fool's errand. Like, it's a fool's errand.
I think it's the most. I think non-alc gin is the most expensive bottled water on the planet.
Let's not get to
insane.
Non-alc rum, non-alc whiskey.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. I know
non-alc vodka is a good one.
A lot of people are making money on this. A lot of people are losing money on this.
Yeah.
A lot of people are investing money in this. I respect. You take a decision with your own money or with venture capital most of the time. I think there's no future in that. And we're going back to the thing where like people are ordering low ABV because they're health conscious, and I was telling you, well, actually people are ordering vermouth and they don't know how much sugar there is in it. At one point, like, consumers will realize there's so much shit into a fake gin, right? If you buy a bottle of a proper London Dry gin, right, and you know it's London Dry, there's no additive in it. Like, it's London Dry.
Yeah,
there's no additive. That very same brand will have under the same label the 0.0 version, and it will be full of shit.
Yeah,
glycerine, whatever, to give structure, to give mouthfeel.
Of course.
Right? So at some point, someone say, well, all the fucking additives you've got in this, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the future of non-alc and low is, I think, mostly into the low. I think there's a lot of things to play around 5 and 15 degrees. A lot of products that, because you still have a bit of alcohol.
Yeah.
I think gin, whiskey, vermouth. No, vermouth actually is, like, everything is bitter is fine, because bitterness is actually making your brain think there is something going on there. But all the straight spirits, wine, like, if you have money to invest, do not invest in that. Yeah. Like, someone is going to make money out of your money, but you're going to lose money.
Yeah.
Cocktail bars, yes, they can make all the stuff. Like, they can do a lot of stuff, but there's no one, like, you don't need a fake gin.
No.
You're not gonna.
I think it was a good thing to invest in if you had an exit strategy a little while ago, but you need to know that it's not sticking around forever. It's definitely, for me, it's a bubble that has to pop, because, well, but essentially, and anything you can do in the non-alc world as a brand, I think a bartender can probably do better on site. And they don't really need a brand, because most people don't give a shit. Maybe the exception to that is non-alc beers, which have very good brands. And I think some people, like non-alc Guinness, for example, like everyone talks about Guinness Zero being amazing. And I reckon that'll stick around for a while, because there's plenty of people who love the ritual of a Guinness. And it's actually good, the Guinness, and it is a trend. But I don't think it's one that'll pop and disappear.
But again,
it'll just continue.
It's a stout,
yeah.
So there is a lot of flavor in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's the reason.
Non-alc vermouth, there's bitterness. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lager,
Yeah.
spare me. I
Yeah.
mean, no, people are saying like,
They're so watery.
but people are thinking, no, beer is the example. Like, beer has been at it for 40 years. And last year I did like an experiment for the first time in my life. I consciously spent 10 days without drinking.
Wow. 10 days.
I know, right? Someone's
What
got
a
to
hero.
suffer for you guys too. So the first thing I did, like the first 2 days, I had beer, right?
Yeah.
And it was shit.
Yeah.
And I had those friends, and they would say, "Yeah, well, you shouldn't have this beer. You should have that one. Is great." And I'm like, what I did is I just ordered the non-alc version of the beer I normally have. And if you're telling me as a consumer that I need to have a doctorate into non-alc beer, I've already done my doctorate. I know what beer I like, right? And if I need to do another doctorate, another PhD on non-alc beer to get to the non-alc beer I like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I did. On the third day, I switched to sparkling water.
Yeah.
So 40 years after they started with the non-alc beer, and non-alc beer is like the thing, the two biggest markets for non-alc beer in the world are Spain and Germany, and that's 15% of the market.
Yeah.
That's great, 15%. But 40 years on, 15%, right? 80% is still alc, right? So when I see a booze company that invests so much money into non-alc and divest from their regular products, it's like, are you fucking stupid?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are. And the answer is they are.
Yeah. Because I think it's sticking around forever. But I think it's like, I think the problem with these corporations is, well, first of all, not too many independent thinkers. There's this thing in
And they don't drink, Gavin. They haven't been to bars. They don't go to bars.
Yeah,
And this
yeah,
is one
this
of the things.
they also think everybody is like them, you know.
If
like
going to
yeah,
bar, if you're saying you're going to bar means you're going with your girlfriend or boyfriend and your pals on a Friday night to the trendy restaurant, the trendy place in your hometown. If that's going to bar, which it is for a lot of people who are working in trade marketing and stuff like that, you're not going to bars.
Yeah.
Like, going to bars is sitting at the fucking bar for hours on end
Yeah.
and looking what
Yeah.
people are at what people are ordering.
Yeah. And
Which is-
drinking it in and really understanding it.
Which is how you get this disconnect where people are saying, like, I talk to brand people are saying, well, people are not drinking anymore. And then I go to this friend's place I was talking about, and 23 years old, second best selling drink, Dirty Martini, like,
yeah, it doesn't
I
match
mean,
up.
you're working in booze. Maybe you shouldn't be worried about people who don't drink and actually look at what people who are drinking are drinking.
Yeah, I think there's also there's an issue in, like, I mean, I don't know exactly what happens in these places. I've got some experience, but like in like let's say any big company, but let's take like big liquor companies for example. You go sit in a meeting room, especially with marketing execs and people in the corporate world. It's like people are throwing like ideas out, but I don't think they're necessarily backed by a lot of independent thought. They're thinking like, what would land well in this meeting room right now, and what is not going to get me fired, and what's a safe thing to say. And really they're just piggybacking off what they've read, like, like buzzwords. Like 10 years ago it would have been sustainability, and now it might be like Gen Z are doing this, and low and no is the new thing. And it's like, no one wants to stand up and say in that room where everyone, pretends to agree with each other, or maybe they do agree with each other because they haven't given it too much thought, but no one wants to stand up and say, I actually think you're all wrong, and everyone just wants to get like messed up, and they just want to like, like they want to drink good stuff, and like, or maybe like, no one wants to pick up the beer and go, I actually think this kind of tastes like shit, guys, and no one really wants to drink this. It tastes like a ghost of a beer.
So a lot of the issue is those people have studied, they could sell shampoo, they could sell cars, they're just selling booze.
Yeah.
Because that's where they ended up.
Yeah.
They don't have the passion we have for the industry, so they don't know it. They don't know what makes people tick.
Yeah.
They don't listen to the people from their company.
Yeah. Because that's the bridge, right? It's
on the
you've
street,
you've
selling the stuff.
You've got bars who are in contact with real people, and then you've got the corporations who are all marketing and they went to college to study whatever, and then you got this brand ambassador who has to act as a bridge, and they're like,
and I have the salesman, and the salesman is just a salesman, and I've studied in this I followed university about like business management. Why would I listen to the fucking salesman? Because I'm a genius. I'm a marketing genius. I've got the paper that proves it.
Yeah.
And so they have this issue. They received all the Nielsen reports and the stuff like that, which most of it is shit.
Yeah, I know. I used to be like one of the bars where they came and studied the stuff in the Nielsen, and they just come in and they ask you a bunch of bullshit questions. And
but most people in the, so I was talking with someone with someone from one of those beer groups 2 days ago, and he was asking me, where do you get your numbers? And we were talking about it. So what do you actually know? Like the numbers you get are not real numbers. Like they're like it's like when you call people and say, are you going to vote in the next elections? And then from the 2,000 people you polled, then you get the result, right?
Yeah.
So they get this, and then they also get the press. Journalists have got no fucking idea what's really going on, so it's like whatever they get from PR and stuff like that. So they say, oh, the trend is now this. So they get all this, and they're in there, and then they see what the competitors are doing, and they say, oh, I want to do that too. Oh, this Aperol's fucking smashing it. I want one.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you get there?
Yeah.
No, help me get... No. And so they've got all this thing, which doesn't allow them to see the reality of the market. And also, they're in a huge structure, which work like big companies do, where what you need to do is impress your peers, because that's what you depend on to progress.
Yeah.
So for you, it's more important to say, within 2 years, I've had... like this brand I was working on has got this growth, and then I've made this amazing event where those famous people came, and that's it. And then I can jump to the next brand, which is a bit more prestigious than the one I was working on.
Yeah.
So it's all geared towards the people who are going to decide on your career, and that's nothing to do with the actual lifespan of the product, and what's what are the best decision. You're not a custodian of the product. You're a custodian of your career.
Yeah.
And so it's... the incentives are there for you to fuck up.
Yeah.
To fuck up for us, right?
Yeah.
From us, like outsider looking in.
Yeah.
I don't know if anything I'm saying is making sense.
No. I'm piecing it. You're basically saying like, yeah. Well, first of all, like, yeah, you've got all these people who are kind of deciding the shape of our industry, or at least they think they are, and that's what's being reported. But really, they're just saying the right thing at the right time to advance their career in some way. And really, what they're saying is, it's for the other people in their industry that they think are important enough to look at what they said and advance them in some way. And it's similar to bars making drinks for other bartenders. It's the same kind of thing, right? It's like, you make drinks because you want to get on a list to become an awarded bar, but really those drinks are not that geared towards a customer. They're geared to other bartenders who will be like, oh, that's an amazing drink. Oh, it's cool. Yeah. So yeah, the average person doesn't really give a shit.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
And for me, there's always that component where it's politics.
Yeah.
Right. So you have this like companies that are, the last 10 years has been all about like the Diageo and Pernod Ricard of this world are unable to create product from the ground up. Right. And launch a product themselves.
No, they just buy.
They just buy, right?
Yeah.
And so you're buying this product, and you have to make it a success because you bought it. And then you drop it onto a market, and the people in that market know perfectly well this product is not made for this market, but internal politics.
Yeah.
And so you put all the resources on that product that you know is gonna fail.
Yeah. Yeah, because I suppose like if you're in the market, like if I think about, I've been in the corporate world a little bit, I suppose corporate hospitality, and I've been around the block a little bit. I would imagine if I put myself in the shoes of, let's say, a regional manager for whatever, some Northern Europe or whatever, and the big bosses, global bosses, CEOs, directors, board level have already invested 100 million to launch this product, and a lot of it is going into my market. They're basically saying, make this work. Like, I don't even really see this as, like, I can't go back to them and say, I don't think this is the right market for it, because back to your point about career advancement, it's not going to be good for me to go and tell those people that they made a mistake. Yes. Like, hey, I think you guys made a fucking massive mistake here and you should pull your money back.
Maybe if you do that, you'll actually advance faster. But the odds are against you.
Not with that company.
Or maybe they do say, I'm actually enjoying this guy telling me that I'm wrong, and he was right.
And how many people have got the balls to do
exactly? That's it. I've got the perfect example for this. Like, years ago, I was paid a lot of money by one of those groups because they had just bought the vermouth brand. So we're talking Spain, and they had bought a vermouth, not a Spanish brand. They had bought a vermouth from somewhere else. I don't want to burn bridges, so I'm gonna.
You can.
I'm not going to name names.
We'll put the names in the subtitles.
There you go. The show notes. And they paid me good money to train their sales force and their brand ambassador they just hired to do this, to train them on the vermouth category. So if you have a vermouth product, an aromatized wine or whatever, you want to pay me good money, I'll do it. So that's my advertisement right now.
Hired Shield. He'll say whatever you want him to say.
Yeah, I like money. I almost as much as I like a dry martini. Anyway.
That was a hint.
Yeah, that was a... so they paid me good money to train them. And the thing is, back then, now it's changed a little bit, but back then, the premium vermouth in Spain was between 8 and 12 euros.
Yeah.
And their vermouth was going to be retailing at 24.
Oof. Now, now you're making me think, what brand was that?
I knew it was impossible.
Yeah.
They knew it was impossible.
How long ago was this?
That was in 2016, I think.
Okay. I have a couple of ideas, but I'm not going to say.
They knew it was impossible. I knew it was impossible, but somehow they decided they had to spend the money. They had to hire someone full-time for the product.
Yeah.
It was their priority. And you know what? Every time I teach about vermouth, every time I do like tasting, I always used to pick one of those vermouth in my lineup until I stopped. And I stopped for one good reason, because all the samples I got were bad. They were cooked.
Yeah.
Because there was no rotation.
Ah, okay.
So they were, what everyone knew was happening. They had those
stale.
warehouse full of the product.
Yeah.
No one wanted the product.
Yeah.
And that happens time and time again, which is the same thing. Just to finish on this, group XYZ spends 5 years building gin brand A. All of a sudden, they acquire gin brand B. And all the resources are there. They forget gin brand A, and you as a bartender like, but A was amazing.
Yeah.
Why the fuck should I sell B? And you're only doing it because they come and they pay you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. But there we are.
Yeah. But from a bar's perspective, you do feel. Yeah, you like from a bar owner's perspective, like. Yeah, honestly, the money that the brands give you, or it's usually not. I mean, sometimes it's direct money. Quite often it's buybacks or like
which
discounts.
Is the other elephant in the room, Gavin? How corrupt you all are.
We are corrupt. Yeah.
Doesn't happen with chefs.
Because it doesn't happen with chefs, and I
like all bartenders want to be chefs and want to be Michelin-star cocktail.
Yeah. Because but they go for chefs buy everything at raw ingredient. I mean, if we want to be completely like chefs, then forget all brands. Brands disappear. Then we have
you only pick like, I'm using this bourbon because I like this bourbon.
But bourbon is bourbon would be bourbon in the chef world would be like buying a McDonald's hamburger and putting it into your dishes. You know, like if we think about chefs, they buy rosemary and thyme and lemon and chicken, and you know, like it's all single ingredient. Nothing is a pre-prepared product. Everything we buy, well,
Yeah, but
not everything, but a lot of what we do
let's
in the
allow
industry.
for the difference between the two. Like you're going to this provider of meat because you really like the way the meat is taste is produced, etc. And then you're going to this producer of bourbon or cognac because you really like the flavor profile, etc. And
Sure, but if I could ask
and
you to
this
name
doesn't
three
happen.
bourbons, but I couldn't, like, you wouldn't be able to name 3 meat brands.
No, of course.
Like, you
But
know,
I'm not a
it's
chef.
but also a chef couldn't
Yeah.
either. You know, a chef can tell you, I get it from a local butcher or whatever, and maybe they do have a brand, they have a special farm.
No, I get
but
you.
no consumer gives a shit what that farm is. You know, there's
Yeah.
there's provenance. You can
Yeah.
say, I get whatever, like Stilton cheese from Stilton, or I get, you know, like this brie from this special farm. But it's not the same as Smirnoff. You know, nothing is that big in the food world that can sell to a chef, because everyone expects the chef to make everything from scratch. You know, they like with the, I suppose, like what are the only like prepared products that come in are the things which are very, very difficult to make on site. I suppose cheese would be one of them. There's not much, I don't know what else is there. Like everything else is like just a raw ingredient, right?
But my point
There's
is
no branding.
My point is you want to be like talking like at the same level as the guys from This Frutar, like talking about a restaurant, 3 Michelin star here in Barcelona, best in the world, whatever. You want to be at that same level, but you don't have the same relationship with your with your base product provider that those guys have.
Yeah.
Because you are going to change the rum, the well rum, based on the deal you get.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
It's a business. We all have to make money.
Yeah.
But I'm just going back again to say, yeah, I mean, actually, you want to be like this fancy places, but you're a tortilla place. Never forget you're a tortilla place.
Yeah. No, but I agree, and I'll say, like, even, you know, like I'll drop myself in it. So I mean, we just opened a bar, me and my partner, and I won't name the brand, but. And this is very, very strange for a brand to do, and I don't really understand why they do it. But we wanted to buy a Rhodovap to do some stuff for our menu, and a brand basically paid for 90% of that Rhodovap because we told them it was a Rhodovap. They always need a
Justification.
They always need a justification. We want to buy you a Rhodovap, and like we took the money, but in my head I'm like, why would a brand want us
Pay
to have?
me to
why
use
would
something
you,
else.
Well, we're going to use their brand, but we're going to bastardize it. The dry martini. He's been talking about this dry martini all day.
Well, can we order seconds?
we can order seconds. I'm sure there is. But yeah, like
Thank you.
like why would a brand give us? I won't say how many €1,000, but
Oh, come on, do brag.
more than 10,000 euros
Yes.
for a Rhodovap. When what we do in a Rhodovap is basically create our own spirits, you know, or maybe we use your spirit, but we're going to heavily bastardize it. You know, it's not going to be recognizable by the time we've finished it, because that's what that's for. It's not for representing your brand in any particular way. But I think that's going to end. Honestly, I think that's not going to last more than 10 years from now. You know, I don't think brands should be paying for, because essentially that means we're not taking your brand and putting it on the back bar, because as soon as it arrives in the building, we're pouring like, you know, 2 cases into a big vat with some other stuff. We're changing it into something else, and then we're selling it to the customer as flavor descriptors, and we're not even mentioning. Maybe we mention your brand, I don't know, like whatever. But it's just a very strange period right now that we're in, where they're kind of not. I think they're still stuck in this old world where it was like pay to be on the back bar, and then a lot of bars don't even have back bars anymore, because everyone wants like like in the UK, you all want a frozen glass. So there's no back bars, there's no nothing. It's like, so you pay for menu placement, and then drinks got so complex that menu placement doesn't even work anymore, because the drinks they've got 50 ingredients in them, and you just need to name 3 flavor descriptors so that people understand the drink. So the brand is still like giving money, but it's like, I don't know why you're giving us money anymore. Like to buy the product.
I mean, one
sure,
of the best
buy the
examples I had
product.
lately was a bar, quite a well-known bar in Barcelona, where they got like the outdoor seating area paid for by a soda company.
Fever Tree. It's always Fever Tree.
You said it. All the fucking drinks that have got bubbles in the place are carbonated.
Yeah.
So they don't use the product.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, what are we playing at?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's their money, it's not mine.
Yeah.
But every time I see lost money, I say, first, if you'd given me that money, I would have made something more interesting for you. And I like money again, as I said.
Yeah.
Not as much as this dry martini, but still. What the fuck? Why? Like, why? Like, amazing for that bar. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely tell you why from the bartender's, but from the bar owner's
no, of course.
perspective,
No.
That's an easy why.
You sold them, how do you say it, cat in the bag or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you sold. It's amazing. Like, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Although there's someone at that company who's going to be suffering from it. Because they will say, well, where's the return on investment?
Yeah, and this is the other good, like this is from a marketing perspective as well, where I think, again, where we were talking about people sort of doing career advancement and kind of like selling themselves and thinking about they can always justify that expense as not just to do with that bar. So, like, for example, it's image and it's, what do they call it? Like, what do they call it? Like top of the funnel branding, so it's like it's exposure, rather than just like we buy them furniture, they buy our brand. It's like, yeah, but every chair in that bar that's really popular says Fever Tree on the back. Sorry for dragging Fever Tree into this, but they are everywhere. Where I live in Mallorca, every terrace has Fever Tree, like parasols.
But it's still funny because like.
But it used to be, I mean, Coca-Cola.
Working for exposure is something I did when I was 24 years old. They were saying, I'm not going to be able to pay you, but, your article will be in the magazine next to so-and-so, so it will be good for you, or, whatever. I mean, like, you're a multi-million brand, and you're also working for exposure? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I know, I understand the logic of it, but I'm like, sometimes, especially in this current context where all the brands, like multi-million... stock and change valued, brands are playing like, we're poor, we don't have money. Like, we don't have 5,000 euros. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Let's just forget those people and enjoy our drink. This is the perfect hangover drink.
Yeah, I don't know about a hangover drink, but yeah, sure.
I mean, I don't have a heavy hangover. No, I'm just have as we discussed, like sleep and stuff. And this always puts me up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but that vermouth and cassis, man, I'm gonna.
That's really amazing drink. That's why I wanted to serve it. First, historically, it's such an important drink and format, and also it's delicious.
Yeah.
And it's so French, and fucking like the French.
Yeah. That'd be. I mean, like, it's weird how I don't think you could ever predicted what would have happened to Aperol Spritz. Like, just went fucking rocket fuel, like, all of a sudden, like,
which is another thing we didn't discuss, and I honestly don't want to spend more time on those people. I'm very frustrated. I used to work a lot with brands, and since they don't have budget, they don't pay me anymore, and I'm like very frustrated.
Yeah, no one has budget anymore. I know.
You always. I mean, I know there is a cunt somewhere saying Aperol Spritz. I did this. Like, I created it. Right?
Yeah.
And no, like, it was organic.
Yeah.
I actually met a guy who used to work at Bacardi Martini.
Yeah.
Bacardi Martini was actually negotiating with Aperol at the same time. Like, the guys the owners from Aperol were playing one against the other.
Yeah.
So on the Friday night, Friday evening, they accepted the offer from Bacardi Martini, and they told them, but give us we like the offer, we're good, but we'll work on we'll do the paperwork on Monday. And they hung up and they called Campari and said, all right, those guys are paying this, and that's thing. And so I know one of the guy who was involved with this, and know exactly, like, he couldn't tell you how to do an Aperol, but he knew what happened, and it's just about the people at Camp Paris at one point saying, "All right, the train is already leaving the station. We need to jump on."
Yeah.
Like this is we didn't make the train leave the station.
Yeah.
But now that it's left the station, we need to put fuel in it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You always have stupid fucking cunt in train marketing who will say, "That was my idea. I made this happen." No. Someone was smart enough to see where this was going, but no one.
You were being played.
Yeah.
You were the pawn. You were.
Exactly.
You thought you were the queen, but you were the pawn.
Exactly.
The same thing happened with Instagram. Facebook and Twitter were both trying to buy it at the same time, and Twitter was first in. And it was like literally Friday afternoon. Twitter had an offer on the table, and Instagram were like, "Oh, that's a good offer." And then they just call Mark Zuckerberg and be like, "Hey, Twitter have offered us this," and he's like, "Double." Yeah. He's like, "Let's go!" Boom. And it was just like, dropped it in. Anyway, segue. What were we talking about? Dry martinis. What are we drinking here? Let's do that.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the previous one.
We did it. We just drank it.
We didn't talk about the Ron Collins. Well, I did mention a bit about it.
We had a Ron Collins.
Yeah.
Why did we have a Ron Collins?
Because it's fucking delicious.
Yeah. But why a Ron Collins? I mean, like, what's the history of a Ron Collins? I mean, obviously, like, people know the Tom Collins, and then I suppose in the I'm aging myself here and now a bit, but like late 90s, early 2000s, the John Collins, which is more bourbon, I suppose. Rum Collins, I don't hear about so much.
Yeah, I mean, big in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
So, first we were talking about Mueve Bar, the book about the structure of cocktail and stuff like that. So it was like you get a daiquiri, you do this, and then you add this, and then you add that, and you add sparkling water, you have a Ron Collins, you add mint, you have a mojito, like, essentially, right, making it very easy. No, I like Ron Collins a lot. I actually order much more Ron Collins than Tom Collins because I think like the rum flavor adds more depth.
It was good, man.
And we're in Spain, and the hot weather. I always tell Spanish bartenders, stop looking at London. Stop looking at, like, this is
cold
Spain.
there.
It's fucking hot, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
Like, and all the classic Cuban cocktails were created by bartenders born in Spain or born in Cuba from parents who were born in Spain.
Yeah.
So this is also your culture, and you need to do this. Now, I've worked a lot on Cuban cocktails. It's one of my favorite cocktail school. I love Cuba. I love Cuban culture. I love Cuban cocktails. So for me, it was a great way of, I was drinking a Ron Collins to sort of.
That's kind of a fork in the road a little bit, right? As far as, I suppose, Well, I would say like the Americans would say the American style of cocktail. I would say the UK/American sort of style of cocktail. I've got a little bit of English pride about the birthplace of the cocktail, but I won't get into that. But I suppose like the Anglo side of it, and then there's the Spanish side of it that kind of comes from Cuba a little bit, right? Which there's quite a. Do you think it comes from Spain to Cuba and back again, or does it go from America to Cuba and then to Spain, or is there something specific about Cuba that influences Spanish bartending specifically?
So, like cocktail in Europe, obviously come from the US, where like a lot of we're not going to get into the London and UK thing, but. For example, if you take Paris, which historically has got a much richer cocktail scene than London, if we're talking end of 19th century, early 20th century, it's all about like all those American tourists or businessmen traveling to Europe, and they would go for business to London and for fun and leisure to Paris. And the same way, like you've got UK, English tourists going to Benidorm and they want a full English instead of having pan con tomate and whatever. Well, they also were in Paris and say, why would I just have champagne when I can have all the American drinks, right? And this is the way cocktails came, and also through the international exhibitions, right? This is how the cocktail came into most of Europe. Spain is a bit different, where the history of Spain in the 19th century is very complex and very tough. And so all this modern influence from the US didn't happen. So for Spanish people, modernity was France.
Okay.
And so the cocktail didn't come to Spain through the US. It came through France.
Okay.
Right. And then there was also the Cuban influence, where a lot, because there was so much. Spain loses Cuba as a colony in the late 19th century, and oddly enough, in the next 30 years, there's more Spanish people going to Cuba than in the previous 300 years. So it's like Cuba is not Spanish anymore, but Spanish people go to Cuba, and a lot of people work into the hospitality industry, and then they come back to Spain, and that influence comes. But cocktails come from US to Paris to Madrid and Barcelona. And then there's a bit of Cuban influence. What I love about Cuban Mountain, well, what I admire about Cuba is it's a relatively, I mean, for the Caribbean, it's a big island, but it's a small island, 11 million people, and the fucking bastards created a daiquiri and a mojito.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And then, I love the Presidente, I love a Chaparra, I love a Cuban old-fashioned, and they have Constante Rivaraigua from Florida. It's probably the best bartender in the 19th century if you just looked at the recipes and the influence he had. The fact that they would use those very old-fashioned techniques like the throw, but at the same time, they introduced the blender before, like the blender is a U.S. invention, and it first made a cocktail. The first people to make a cocktail with a blender were the Cubans.
Yeah.
So you have this thing, and so we have this obsession in this industry with Japanese bartending. Yeah. Which is obviously amazing.
It's great. Yeah.
Look at the fucking Cubans. Like for me, there's historically three schools. U.S. school, European school, Cuban school, and then the Japanese came later. Like the Cuban school is so fascinating.
Yeah,
so much to learn.
But how much of the Cuban cocktail culture is because of Prohibition, and because that was where people went during Prohibition to go and
of
drink?
Course, huge impact. But daiquiri, El Presidente, both predate Prohibition.
Yeah.
So there was already something going on.
Yeah. Well, the daiquiri, I don't know if you know it. Like, I don't know if you have a date in mind for the daiquiri. I always
1898 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Jennings Cox, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I don't buy this shit.
Yeah. Well, I just think like it's one of those things where like people, when they're looking at history, they're desperate for a date and they want to draw a line under it. And a lot of these things just develop over time,
Forget about that. Yes, of course.
People would have been drinking rum or aguardiente or some kind of rum, and then they would have like had lime, and rum and lime doesn't taste great together. You would have had sugar, so you create sugar. Same as punch, like punch back in the day would have just been like, we just got this shit on the ship already. So
but for me, it's always about the minute detail. What is the difference between?
What's the tipping point? Where's the moment it becomes a daiquiri?
For me, what is a daiquiri? A daiquiri is yes, you'd get aguardiente or rum and lime and sugar, of course. But this is those three ingredients put into a shaker, which is an American invention, shaken over ice, which is an American technique, served into a stemmed cocktail glass, which is an American invention. Yeah. So this is one. The daiquiri for me is, okay, we can talk all about, people mix those three ingredients together. No. The daiquiri is when someone took a very Cuban product like Cuban rum, and mixed this very Cuban thing or very Caribbean thing with the American technique and created a cocktail, which is the daiquiri. Yeah. The Jennings Cox recipe that's floating around is not a daiquiri. It's diluted with water. It's made for 6 people. It's a fucking punch. Yeah. But I so maybe Jennings Cox was the first one to say, let's do this with Bacardi and it's going to taste amazing. Maybe. But I tell you, he went to a bar in Santiago de Cuba, talked with a Cuban cantinero, and the Cuban cantinero made that drink. Like what we know now as the daiquiri was created by a Cuban cantinero. And from that, I'm not backing down. And I'm a great friend with Dave Rundrich. I do respect Jeff Berry, etc. Both of them tell me that Jennings Cox, it's obvious that it was created there in the mine. They've got a lot of documents to support it. Fuck it, it's a Cuban cantinero.
Yeah,
it's not an Anglo white dude saving the world.
Yeah.
Realizing that you can make an actual decent drink with this local road gut.
Yeah. Quite often in history, and this is not to slam anybody really, but quite often in history we're like, when we say when was this created, we're like, who's the first white dude who created this? It's like, maybe it wasn't a white dude. And like, yeah, but let's just, So maybe then. Maybe, and this is similar to, this is not a revelation by any means, but then maybe the sort of the biggest contributor that America had to, let's say, mixed drinks, not the cocktail, because the cocktail has a certain connotations around it, is ice. The production of ice and the inclusion of ice in 100%. Drinks. Because there's not that much difference between a punch in the 1700s in the UK or around Europe, Holland or whatever, but it was very big in England, and we had punch houses, and it was a massive thing. Even the first what's his name now? The guy who did the first cocktail book,
Jerry Thomas.
The first edition of his cocktail book was mostly punch. It wasn't cocktails. And then within his lifespan, it just went. Anyway, my point being is like maybe the biggest difference is just ice. Ice is so integral.
100%. By the way, did the vermouth cassis we had? Is this what? Did we have a cocktail? Is it a cocktail? What do you think?
Yeah, by today's standards, yes, you would call it a cocktail just because that's how the menu is. But by historical standards, of course not. But most things aren't cocktails by historical standards.
Which we're going back to the thing where we're talking about vermouth.
This isn't a cocktail by historical standards. Yes, we've had zero cocktails today by historical standards.
Yeah, well, let's talk cocktail about like mixed drinks, right? Yeah. But it's when we were talking about vermouth, saying, well, we can't always say like, for me, like even though the Greek, mixed vermouth and wine, we can't call what they did vermouth.
Yeah,
like there is a cultural and context to what we're having, and vermouth was born in the late 18th century. So yes, today a vermouth cassis or an americano, right, is going to be considered in a cocktail. But both those drinks were born in cafes. They were not born like in Europe at the late 19th century, early 20th century. You had cafes. And then you had American bars. And neither the vermouth cassis nor the Americano were made in the American bars. They were cafe drinks.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about the history of cocktails, etc., we're losing sight of that. Because now all of those are, drinks you will have. You go to a cocktail bar and you'll have those drinks. But there was a very valid and important mixed drink tradition in Europe. It wasn't playing out in the same type of establishment.
Yeah.
And for example, the Americano for me is an amazing example of what I call like the real sbagliato. Negroni is sbagliato. Sbagliato means mistaken. Yeah. The original sbagliato is the Americano. The Americano is some dude, Italian dude, coming back from the US, going to a bar in Florencia, Turin, Milan, who cares? Walking into the fucking cafe, talking with the waiter, because there was no bartender, and say, I have a vermouth, and then say, actually, you know how they serve this in the US? They mix it with bitters. I have a vermouth like the way they do it in the US because, I'm coming back from the US. Like, I made it big. I was a poor guy from the Abruzzo or whatever, and I'm back in Italy now after having made it big in the US, and I want the vermouth like they do in the US. And then the guy would go and say, vermouth and bitter. Campari, right?
Yeah.
That's the only bitter I have,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I have no stem glass, so I'll have my and I don't have ice because there is no commercial ice in Italy in the late 19th century. I'll have sparkling water. Here is your American cocktail. There you go.
Yeah.
And from that mistake, from that misunderstanding that you have, this beautiful drink we have right now.
It's a great drink.
That is now integrated within the repertoire of cocktail bars.
Yeah. Yeah. You think that's going to make a comeback? You think that not to go back to the low ABV conversation we were having before? Do you think it's got legs? Do you think it's
But the Americano.
Yeah. It's been around a long time, obviously. But
My mother-in-law is Spanish from deep Spain.
Yeah.
72 years old. Is a big vermouth fan. And so whenever I receive a vermouth bottle, and if the vermouth is crap, which it mostly is, I'll just taste it, take my tasting notes, and then my mother-in-law comes and I give her the bottle. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they came to have dinner at our place. And my wife said, well, instead of a vermouth, why don't you make them something? And I thought, well, can we make it Americano? Like it was like for her, it was like the most amazing thing she's ever drank.
Yeah.
And then I was at that place 2 weeks ago, and she had ordered, because they're from a small village, there is no Campari there, and she had ordered 3 bottles of Campari off Amazon. So yeah, long story, short answer, yes. I think the Americano.
Yeah.
The Americano, if you put it like anyone who's got a bit of would love it. Like you don't. It's not fancy. It's very easy to make. I've taught my father-in-law how to make it, so now he can show it to his friends, etc. So it's a very easy profile. And if it doesn't make it big, it's because you don't want to make it big.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. No, I was just thinking as you said, I was trying to think of some other drinks that are like that. I think there's a barrier to the market where bartenders won't push certain drinks that are just too easy and too obvious to make. Like that first drink we had that was just cassis, vermouth, soda. Like if I give that to 50% of bartenders in very high-end bars, I'm going to be about like this. Obviously, this tastes amazing, but I can't sell this. Like, what's that going to do for me? You know, like what does that say about me? This is too simple. That would be another one. The Americano would be another one. Another one that I just thought of like randomly, which like people would definitely think of as a trash drink. The French martini. It's chambord, pineapple juice, and vodka. Like there couldn't be more basic bitch ingredients. Yeah. But I tell you, 90% of people taste a French martini and go, that's great. That's so good.
Of course.
Because they just want something sweet and fruity and enjoyable to
the
drink.
Same way when you walk into a bar and you look like, how do you like my menu? And so you should have a bit more of ginger, basil, and lime. It's
like to give it the food analogy. It's like, yeah, I could go in and have your mackerel with with fried caper and whatever, and it's like, but it's not lasagna.
Yeah.
It's like there's still amazing dishes which are just very obvious and pretty easy to get right.
No, for sure. There's a lot of drinks like that which are not, you could find them in second tier or third tier. But what I would say is, if cost of living crisis, like...
I'm going to stop talking about cost of living crisis. We sound like two 40-year-old men just like...
Almost trade, whatever, Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If this goes on for quite a while longer, I'd say that all those people are going to be serving vermouth, cassis, and Americano because consumers will like...
Yeah.
How much can I make my 10 euros stretch,
Yeah.
Like, well, 10 euros, I can't make you this very special drink, but what about an Americano? And like, okay.
Yeah.
If that's what I can afford, that's what I have.
Yeah. You think? Can you text Flo and see if we can get another one?
It's coming.
Oh yeah.
Refill, refill.
He's on it.
Jesus Christ.
Uh,
I'm gonna be hangover tomorrow too. Then.
Right, you got time to recover. It's 7:00 in the morning for everyone listening. So let's talk about a little bit because you're the chair of Spain and Portugal for 50 Best, right?
Yeah, let's get into it. Now that I'm drunk, you get me talk about 50 Best.
Well, we can talk about 50 Best. I want to talk about, but I want to talk about like. And I'm trying to dissect a little bit what awards things do for the industry, because there's different levels of it. Like to give to frame this not to load the conversation, but to frame it slightly from my perspective. I have bars on the awards circuit to some degree, and there's a weird thing around it, and I see a net positive to be straight up with it. I see net positive, but I see lots of weirdness around it. There's a strangeness in how it's judged, and there's a strange clique of these bars sticking together, and there's bars making drinks for basically other bartenders and kind of putting the guest as a third class citizen in some degrees. There's all this strangeness about it, but I just wonder first of all, how do you see that how do you see it benefiting the industry or not in some way? You don't have to
so
play
yes,
to yourself.
I'm 50 Best Academy Chef of Spain and Portugal, but I really need to stress out I'm not a spokesperson for 50 Best.
Yeah.
Like my responsibility is picking the judges for my markets and making sure they vote. That's it. I have nothing else. And I don't speak for the organization. Mm-hmm. I do, however, have my opinion on things. So this is François, the drinker who writes or writer who drinks. I forgot. Speaking, not the Academy Chair, right?
Yeah, of course.
There's a game. There is an award game for sure. Mm-hmm. That applies to any awards, like whether it's 50 Best, whether it's Michelin, whether it's Spirited Awards, whether it's Class Awards in the UK. There is a game to it, of course. Is it a net positive, as you said? Yes, of course it is a net positive. It's obviously a net positive. If it weren't a net positive, people wouldn't be complaining about it.
Maybe. Yeah.
People are complaining about it because they want to be on it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right in that degree. Yeah. No, I completely agree with that.
And that's why they're complaining.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. From what I understand, from what I hear, there are bars spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
Lobbying. And some of them are getting there and some of them are not, which also indicates that, it's not all about throwing money at it. There's also a big return on investment for a lot of places, like people I know and I have enough of a personal relationship with shared numbers with me, and those numbers are really interesting. Like we're talking about a very interesting uptick in not only in because some of them say, well, your bar is already packed, so why do you want this? Well, because it attracts another type of customers that's going to be spending more money. So they're going to have their butt on the seat for the same amount of time, but they're going to spend more money. So yes, it's great. Also, 50 Best has been very good at creating media interest for the bar industry, which is also amazing, especially because, if you're looking at this from New York, you say, well, I'm in New York. Right, like there's something like people drink cocktails. It's the U.S. It's New York. Yeah, you're in Athens. You're in Berlin. You're in even in Paris. When there is the media is not going to write a lot about cocktails, unless they're being told to talk about the cocktails, and they're being told because there's this list that's doing it, and that's putting all those efforts in getting media engagement. So that's very positive, of course. There are things to criticize. Yes, of course, there are things to criticize. I am yet to hear an improvement to the process that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a conversation I've had with a lot of people. Well, you should do this. Like, all the judges should be, the name should be public. It's like, well, there's a reason why it's not public anymore. Huh? That's because it wasn't working.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't agree with making the names public. I think, didn't they used to publicize the names after the awards?
There was a list, and then of course you would. I don't know if it was before or after, but you could use the list from the year before to do your stuff.
You could figure it out. I mean, that making the list of judges public would be insane to me. Like, of course, if everybody wants to be on the list and you make the list of judges public, those judges are going to get inundated with.
You were talking earlier about
essentially bribes. Let's call them what they'll be trying to bribe them, or please come to my bar. And that's not a comfortable judging arena where you can feel you can be free and fair. Not that I think it's necessarily perfect right now. And I'm sure
it is not.
Agree.
No.
That wouldn't help.
Perfect.
That would not make the situation better. No,
list is perfect. Never.
Yeah.
I personally enjoy quite a bit when people are telling me so and so told me he or she would vote for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that person is not a voter because it's from my market. I personally enjoy this because it shows me that the system is actually working.
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking earlier about, this group of bars and click and stuff like that. Yeah, well, yes, but that's because there is this assumption, right? Like you are always traveling, you are on the list, so you obviously are a voter. Like, yeah, well, maybe that person is, maybe that person is not, but that person is seeing $250 a year.
Yeah.
If that person is a voter, is that person going to vote for you?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just that. Sometimes like I know bartenders that think they're 100% sure in their mind that if the judges for that region had just been to their bar,
they would have
definitely voted for us. And they're quite right in assuming that maybe they were overlooked because those judges hadn't been to their bar. That's perfectly legitimate. They can't go to every bar. There isn't the resources for it. But there's also the possibility that maybe they did go to your bar and they didn't really like it that much, like that's a possibility. And for sure, there's some people who vote for their mates because, like you've got one bar, you've got one bar here who's a judge, but they can't vote for themselves. And you got another bar over here who's a judge and they can't vote for themselves. And maybe they call each other and say, hey, if you vote for me, I'll vote for you. I don't know. Maybe that happens.
If you scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Yeah, but who else is going to vote for? Who else is going to be a judge anyway? Do you have a lot of judges? Do you have very few judges? If you have few, how are they going to visit the number of bars that are needed to visit? Because there's a volume question there, right? Like the Michelin Star Guide was originally the Michelin Star thing was how far would you drive to? That's why it's Michelin, right? Like
Michelin was because it's
this is a place you should stop at.
It's a tire company. It started as here is a map of France, and then you're gonna travel, and then where are you gonna stop for lunch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where you sleep?
But wasn't there was I think the original concept was this is a place you could stop at. This is a place you should go out of your way to go to. This is a place where you should drive 2 hours. This is a place you would fly to, kind of thing. We don't have that same thing in the bars, but I think it's not a perfect system, but I think it's very valuable. I think I think without it, we wouldn't be in as good a position as we are now.
For sure.
Yeah.
It has undesired side effects for sure. But and I always say to bars who are asking me what should I do? Who should I invite? And first I'm not allowed to. To tell you who's the voter and where you. But I always tell them the same thing. Like, if you look at the website of 50 Best, you'll see that theoretically, like 30% of the voters are going to be bartenders, bar owners, 30% are going to be press, and 30% are going to be cocktail enthusiasts, like people who travel to bars. Focus on the press.
Yeah.
Because maybe that journalist doesn't vote. Maybe that journalist does vote. But the journalist is someone who might write you up. So
Yeah.
there is an effect. Maybe you're not going to get on the list, but you're going to get a press. You're going to get media attention. And it's good. If you invite so-and-so to do guest shifts, and it's guest shift number 57 of the year, honestly, like, you spend the money from the brand, you've alienated your regulars because they don't want to see so-and-so, they don't care. Focus on the press.
Yeah. But how valuable do you think guest shifts are then? Because that's a very, I suppose, hot topic, or I suppose it's what a lot of bar owners see as the main tool in their toolkit is like just guest shifts. Who can we get? If we get them, we'll get this, and if they come over, we'll get this. You know, like this is very common.
Well, because it's the easiest way.
Yeah.
It's the easiest.
And it's the game that you know, I suppose, rather than the press. Like press, you don't know that well, but you know other bartenders, and you feel like, hey, if I get Alchemico over here to do a guest shift in my bar, then that means
it's always the
they're
same
best.
thing.
That means we must be second best, no?
Dude, guys, the bar is beautiful. You've got a great menu. You've got a great team. It will come.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, wow. What can I do to make it come like earlier, faster?
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Yeah.
Easiest way is invite peers, right? Mm-hmm. I need my peers to see me.
Yeah.
And then that's what you do. And then you talk to the brand, and because the brand have got this like model so integrated, they're like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need $2,000.
Yeah.
I'll give you $2,000 for this.
Yeah.
And now you've got this where, like, it used to be where the bar owner had to contact the rep and say, I'd like to do this. Can you? And now it's like the brand is calling the bar and say, I can get you this one, or that one. Mm-hmm. Which one do you want? Right? You have this whole industry built around guest shifts. In terms of as a client, I don't like them. When I go to a bar, I want to drink the drinks from the bar. And a lot of people are still failing on that. Like, you're going into a bar and there's a guest shift, and like, no, we only do the drinks from our guests. Like,
oh, so you're saying as a client, you don't particularly like guest shifts?
No.
Okay.
No. When I go to a bar, I want to try the bars. Imagine, like, you're traveling and you're going to Mexico City and you're there for 2 nights.
Yeah.
And you walk into whatever bar and you're like,
you go into Handshake and they've got to take over from Paradiso, and you're like, I was just in Paradiso.
So this is an issue. Now, in terms of strategy for a bar to position itself, etc., it's good. Because
I suppose like the reverse of that as a customer is like, hey, if I live in Mexico City and I go to Handshake once a week, and I heard about Paradiso, I want to drink a Paradiso drink.
Let's be very honest about that.
Okay, let's be honest.
How many people in Mexico City know what Paradiso is, and are into cocktails so much that they would go out of their way of getting a guest shift.
I legitimately don't know the answer to that
Me
question.
neither,
but I would imagine outside of the bartender world, outside of like people in the industry, I would imagine very few really give a shit.
When we invited Giorgio Bargiani or Ago from the Kono to make dry martinis into your bar in Prague, you're not doing it for your clients. You may pretend you're doing it for your clients. You're not doing it for your clients. We all know that. You know that. I know that. They know that.
Yeah.
You're not doing it for your clients. And it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I find it perfect. And for me, like a few weeks ago, Giorgio was making dry martinis in Madrid, and I was delighted to be able to go and see Giorgio and have a dry martini from Giorgio. Right? Did the other people, non-industry people in the room, care about that? Like, well, there is a Italian guy making stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I think there's some understanding, you know, like, and that's why like 50 Best. No, I don't just mean to single out 50 Best. This is the most prominent one here in Europe. I don't know what is Tails bigger than 50 Best in the US, or would you say?
I think in the US they take Tails and James Beard Awards more seriously than the 50 Best.
Okay,
but I assume that is because they are struggling to get into the list.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say because they never win 50. They never do anything like. Yeah. But
it's always the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know of bars that where we want best bar in the world or blah blah blah, and then all of the list this list is shit. Yeah. I know you. I know you. I see you.
You weren't saying that when an employees only was number one.
I see you. I see you.
Yeah. Now that it's Mexican bars, you're like, I prefer Tails. Yeah. Nah, for sure. There's some of that going on for sure. But I will say, but just speaking from a very hopefully an honest perspective, because I have the real life experience of this. In my bar in Manchester, which we've won some national recognition from UK 50 Best, or UK Top 50 we call it, I think, and there's an immediate uptick in sales, and we need that money in the bank, to be perfectly honest.
No, sure.
It's not like
I've got a friend whose bar was saved by 50 Best.
Yeah.
It was I get 3 months more, and I'm closing, and then bam.
Yeah.
It was years ago.
Yeah. Exactly, and the not to get too businessy or whatever, but the margins are so slim that that thing where you go from not being on any list whatsoever to being top 10 can be the difference between whatever a $3,000 Wednesday or a $4,000 Wednesday.
100%.
Everything just ticks up a little bit, and you're like, okay, this was actually the most important thing that I did this year, was get on one of these lists, and I can absolutely see why you would chase that, because
and for a lot of those venues that are already operating on a high level, this being on those lists, winning those awards, and I think that's uniquely 50 Best, because Spirited Awards doesn't have the same effect. Also opens the door to doing consulting, to opening bars outside, to
franchising.
So we're talking about going from having a bar and making money to making real money.
Yeah.
But that's really for the top end.
Yeah.
And it's always it's diminishing returns, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you have to spend X amount, you have to do, or X amount, or spend X amount of time, on networking, on blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, because there's a really low cap on the bar, right? It's literally, you are essentially renting space in your building, and there's a very, the difference between a fairly busy cocktail bar, not on any lists, not doing anything, amazing, and the best bar in the world. If that's all they're doing, they're getting a price per square meter essentially, and there's not that much difference between the two. There might be you're making €10 a square meter, and you're making €15 a square meter per whatever 3 hours. Doesn't matter. But the point is,
so how much it allows you to build outside.
Yeah, it's when do you have scalability? Because there's no scalability in a bar. There's nothing. You just
And I would argue that before 50 Best, the business opportunity outside of the bar was much more reduced than it is now.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've been in the industry long enough to know that that's the case, because I've been. I've been in the UK, where the industry is quite well developed compared to the rest of Europe. Not in the same degree as America, but fairly close to that. And I remember early 2000s, there was really only bartender, good bartender, cocktail bartender, then assistant manager, and brand ambassador was like, meh. It was murky, but it wasn't a great job. It was like, yeah, you became a brand ambassador because you had a kid and you needed to work
you
a
don't
9
want
to
to
5.
work nights.
You didn't want to work nights anymore, and it was like they were the options. There wasn't really much, that you could do. Consultation was a little bit of a wash. It still is a little bit to some degree. Like consultation consultation almost is so scalable that why would someone hire you as a consultant if you weren't one of the top 10 like people in the world? Because they're all available to you. Like I can go and find someone who owns or runs one of the top bars in the world, like top 10 in the top 50 for the last 10 years or whatever. I can go find one of them, and it wouldn't cost me an insane amount of money. It wouldn't
Too much
be
for many people.
Yeah, too much for many, but it wouldn't be like for a basic consultation, like, write me a menu, do this and this. Like, it might be tens of thousands, but it wouldn't be hundreds of thousands.
No.
So there's no market for you, or for the people who are outside of that list, or because it's such an easy thing to put on the thing, like, hey, I've done this, I'm like, number 5 on the list or whatever. That's such an easy thing to put on the list that, like, why would anyone who needs a consultant, that by indication being someone who doesn't really know what they're doing, or at least needs help in this specific area, they're going to look for a metric of some kind. It's like, it's very easy to just go, where are all the good cocktail bartenders? Oh, there's a list. Okay, cool. There's 50 of them here. Cool. All right, sweet. So just pick one of them and maybe just start from 1 and go downwards. You're not going to go.
You find someone that fits.
Yeah, you're not gonna end up at 51, are you? Before you find someone who's in your price range, you're just going to do that, because if you don't know, you don't know. So, my point being is, like, the consultation market. Is almost like, why wouldn't you, if you were looking for a consultant, just grab the best in the world? And if they're too expensive, get the second best, and if they're too expensive, get the third best.
Yeah, but the best in the world are doing a specific thing, and maybe you don't need that specific.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but do you know enough to understand that that's the case? Because,
no.
Because maybe they'll just tell you. Maybe if you go to the best in the world and you say, "Hey, I'm opening a tiki bar, and the best in the world at that time is Sips," maybe Simone will be like,
I know.
I can make you a tiki bar, but it'll cost you 25 grand.
I know hotel chains where you tell them 10,000, and they'll say, "Oh gosh, it's too much money, and we're talking about hotel chains, right?
Yeah.
So there is a well out there.
Yeah, but they don't really know how to judge it. I've done consultations for hotel chains, and really the challenge is not the price. The challenge is really that we're in such different worlds, actually.
Yeah.
That they're kind of looking for, like, well, they're looking for a magic wand. They're just like, hey, come in and just, and you're like, no, but you're gonna have to manage this. I'm gonna develop it, and I'm gonna give it to you, but it's gonna be a delicate little flower that I give to you that you're gonna have to look after, and you're gonna have to water it and
you
nurture
just want to look at spreadsheets, so you're not gonna be able to manage the flower.
Yeah. You're not gonna be able to manage this, So it's actually quite difficult. Yeah. This was beautiful, man. You're the first guest to take us to 4 drinks.
Well, I'm not going to 4 drinks. I'm just done.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna.
No, you went. Yeah, you're going. But I'm still dealing with yesterday, and I'm like, it's fine.
I'm a savage,
I'm
man.
done.
I'm a savage.
I'm done.
Thanks so much.
No, thanks for having me. It was great.
Good conversation.